Chapter 333. Empress Shui Tong didn't try to hide the truth from the First Elder. To revive the demonic dragon clan, only a descendant of the demonic dragon bloodline can do so. This divine dragon technique was given to me by the demonic dragon's First Elder, and it allows those with the demonic dragon bloodline to cultivate the demonic dragon's true form. When Empress Shui Tong had met with the demonic dragon's soul in the grotto, the latter had set up a restriction on some important conversations. As a result, the First Elder had only seen Empress Shui Tong obtain the technique from the demonic dragon's soul, but not its specific purpose. At the time, when I received this technique from the demonic dragon's soul, he told me that I'd need the demonic dragon bloodline to reach the peak of the demonic dragon realm, Empress Shui Tong continued. Empress Shui Tong continued, however, I have studied the divine dragon technique after returning. It is extremely difficult to understand. Just understanding it takes a lot of time, and it'll take even longer for her to reach the peak of the demonic dragon realm. In order to cultivate this technique, she'll have to expend a large amount of spiritual energy to strengthen her physical body. Empress Shui Tong was eager for revenge, so she didn't want to progress slowly. Coincidentally, she knew of Yun Ruoyan's body constitution, and she had a secret technique in her possession that could greatly enhance Yun Ruoyan's spiritual energy cultivation. It was extremely beneficial for cultivating the divine dragon's techniques, and this secret technique was known as the dual cultivation technique. After a few rounds of research, Empress Shui Tong believed that this technique could be used in conjunction with Yun Ruoyan's cultivation before she reached the peak of the demonic dragon realm. But there's something strange about this technique, Empress Shui Tong continued. If one's mental fortitude isn't strong enough, the process of cultivating this technique will damage one's mind. However, as long as Yun Ruoyan successfully cultivates the demonic dragon's true form and completes her mission obediently, the demonic dragons won't mind even if she goes crazy. Empress. The First Elder frowned. The First Elder of the demonic dragon clan must have considered this possibility when he told you to give this technique to Yun Ruoyan only after she reached the peak of the demonic dragon realm. If Yun Ruoyan's mental fortitude is too weak, wouldn't all her previous efforts be in vain? The Great Elder's words caused Empress Shui Tong to be silent for a while. Then she said, not necessarily. I can see that the girl is quite determined. Empress, the Great Elder advised again, this matter is of great importance, we need to be extremely cautious. Also, if Yun Ruoyan were to go crazy early on, it would definitely arouse Sun Mo's suspicions. At that time, the matter would only become more troublesome. Empress Shui Tong fell silent again. After a long while, she said, I was too impatient. When you go back, tell Sun Mo that this cultivation technique is powerful, but it cannot be practiced diligently. He will certainly know his limits. When she woke up, she found herself nestled in Li Mo's embrace, and Li Mo was just as naked as she was. The two of them curled up and hugged each other like newborn babies. The cool morning sunlight shone through the window and onto the two of them, plating their bodies with a dreamy layer of gold. When Yun Ruoyan lowered her head, she saw a large patch of marks on her chest. She stared blankly, unable to react for a long time until Li Mo opened his eyes. Yen, you're awake. Li Mo reached out and covered the two of them with a thin blanket. When he saw Yun Ruoyan's dazed expression, he reached out and flicked her on the head. Why do you look so dazed again? Are you tired from last night? Yun Ruoyan snuggled deeper into Li Mo's embrace. Not tired. In fact, my body feels very comfortable, but my head feels a little stuffy. Yun Ruoyan didn't think too much about it. However, Li Mo smiled. Yen, I was pleasantly surprised by your enthusiasm last night. With your cooperation, our dual cultivation began without a hitch. When Yun Ruoyan woke up and saw the marks on her body, she naturally knew what had happened last night. Strangely, however, she couldn't remember anything at all. She had no recollection of Li Mo's enthusiasm or their dual cultivation. As if she were a drunkard, her memory was also blank. Liamo, why can't I remember what happened last night? After a long while, Yunruoyan still couldn't recall what had happened the night before. She placed her hand on her forehead in distress. Liamo had also noticed Yunruoyan's discomfort, and he immediately thought of the Divine Dragon Cultivation Manual. After reading it last night, Yunruoyan hadn't seemed to be herself. Do you still remember the contents of the manual I showed you last night? Liamo removed Yunruoyan's hand from her forehead. Yunruoyan shook her head. It's all blank, but I have a feeling that if I were to read it again, I'd be able to understand at least half of it. Liamo had flipped through the manual as soon as he'd received it. It was indeed difficult to understand, but Liamo didn't find anything wrong with it. Furthermore, Empress Shui Tong had said that this was a cultivation technique of the demonic dragon race, so it would have its own unique features. Therefore, Liamo didn't suspect anything. Perhaps it's because the manual is too profound, and it's too early for you to cultivate it, Liamo advised. Let's not study it for now. Let's focus on the dual cultivation method. The dual cultivation method, combined with your constitution, will be beneficial to both of us. This was Li Mo's first time using the dual cultivation method with Yunruoyan. In the past, it had always been Yunruoyan's constitution that nourished his body and spiritual vortex. This time, however, they were mutually nourishing each other. Even someone like Liamo, who was used to restraining himself, couldn't resist the temptation to indulge in it. Liamo picked up Yunruoyan's hand and kissed it lightly. His bright red lips imprinted themselves on Yunruoyan's pale, almost translucent skin, then moved up her arm. This dual cultivation method requires us to strike while the iron is hot. Today, let's try to reach the second stage. Li Mo's hoarse voice accompanied his movements, causing Yunruoyan's heart to palpitate. Liamo flipped Yunruoyan over and activated the dual cultivation method. White spiritual energy began to form on the surface of his body. Yunruoyan hadn't seen the dual cultivation method before, and she was no longer as bold and unrestrained as she had been the night before. Liamo moved his lips close to Yunruoyan's ear to guide her, and the white spiritual energy began to seep out of Yunruoyan's body. Under the effect of dual cultivation, the two spiritual powers merged together wonderfully. The two of them once again entered a short dormant cultivation like silkworms in a cocoon. For an entire day, Yunruoyan and Liamo continued their dual cultivation in the cliffside cottage. During this time, the Lin sisters came to look for her once, but when they didn't open the door, the two of them left. In the past, Yunruoyan would often disappear suddenly, so the Lin sisters were used to not being able to find her. As soon as the Lin sisters arrived at the academy, they heard Zongyang and Guan Ruliu talking, and they joined them. "Guess who I saw in the academy this morning?" Zongyang asked in a mysterious tone. "Who?" Lin Qingxue asked cooperatively. "You wouldn't believe me even if I told you, but I saw Yi Qianying from the Northern College." "What? Yi Qianying?" The Lin sisters exclaimed in shock. "Are you sure you didn't see wrongly? Wasn't she imprisoned in the Hall of Penitence?" After Yi Qianying's murder of Guan Tianyu was exposed, she had been imprisoned in the Hall of Penitence. This was a well-known fact throughout Kongming Academy. For someone like Yi Qianying who had committed a serious crime, once they were imprisoned in the Hall of Penitence, they would be imprisoned for life. How could they be released? Of course I'm not mistaken. I know everyone in Kongming Academy, from the seniors in the 4 halls to the disciples in waiting, Zongyang confirmed. And when I saw her, she was still dressed in her prisoner's garb. She was being led by Master Rong from the Hall of Penitence to the Northern College. When Yi Qianying had first been imprisoned, the Empress had sent a symbolic letter to the second elder to plead on her behalf. After being rejected by the second elder, the Crown Prince, Li Qianshao, had simply written a divorce letter to divorce Yi Qianying. Thus, she couldn't have escaped with the help of the Empress and the Crown Prince. What could have been the reason? The Lin sisters looked at each other, unable to think of a reason. In the northern tower of the northern college, Yi Qianying, who was dressed in a grey prisoner's garb, was kneeling outside the second elder's door. Master Rong was standing by her side. "Master, I've brought Yi Qianying," Master Rong said to the closed door. After a long moment, the second elder's cold voice rang out. "Take her away and let her recuperate. She won't have to participate in the training, and in 2 months, she'll be sent to the alternate world." "Yes, Master Rong," Master Rong replied. Yi Qianying prostrated herself on the ground, her body curled up like a shrimp. Her voice trembled as she said, "Thank you, second elder, thank you, second elder." Yi Qianying had thought that she would rot away in the dungeons of the Hall of Penitence like a piece of trash, but she hadn't expected to see the light of day again. To the second elder, allowing Yi Qianying to enter Kongming Academy was nothing more than making use of trash. Yi Qianying was brought by Master Rong to a secluded courtyard in the Northern College, where he told her to recuperate and that someone would bring her food every day. She was then told to wait for further orders. After Rong Tianhai's departure, Yi Qianying stood alone in the cold courtyard. The pleading expression on her face, which had been directed at Rong Tianhai and the first elder, had vanished in an instant, replaced by a cold expression. Her body was extremely frail, and her face was deathly pale. However, her slightly hunched back slowly straightened. Step by step, she walked towards the room, pushed open the unlatched door, walked in, and closed it behind her. Because of its secluded location, the room was cold and gloomy even in broad daylight. However, it was many times better than the water dungeon in the Hall of Penitence. Yi Qianying walked to a chair, dusted it off, and sat down. A series of coughs escaped her mouth. She covered her mouth with her hand, coughing uncontrollably as she murmured, "You can come out now." An almost incorporeal black shadow appeared behind Yi Qianying. It passed through her body and floated in front of her. Chapter 334. Cough, cough, cough. Yi Qianying was still coughing violently. Suddenly, she felt a metallic taste in her throat, and she spat out a mouthful of blood onto her hand. Yi Qianying's mouth was still bleeding, and the blood continued to drip from between her fingers. Coupled with her deathly pale complexion, she looked like a ghost. "How much time do I have?" Yi Qianying asked the black figure in front of her. "About a month," a hoarse, unpleasant, androgynous voice answered. "Is this the price? The price of your life?" Yi Qianying's voice was full of regret and resentment. "If I'd known that the second elder would release me, I wouldn't have made such a life-threatening deal with you." The black figure's voice was emotionless. "Did you think the second elder would be so kind as to let you out? You killed his grandson, so how could he possibly let you go? He's just using you." "Using me? What do you mean?" "Using you to pay for the quota to enter the alternate world can protect the other students of the Northern College," the black figure continued. "You all think that the alternate world is a good place, but I can tell you that it's a ruthless place. In your current state, you'll die without a doubt, and your death won't be as good as it is now." In the dark environment, Yi Qianying was silent, and the black shadow was silent as if it didn't exist. This black figure was a phantom that had been refined from a corpse in the water dungeon of the Heavenly Gift Hall. At the time, Yi Qianying had been imprisoned in the dungeon, unable to see the light of day. This black figure had suddenly appeared and struck a deal with her. It needed Yi Qianying's own yang energy to continue its cultivation, and once it had condensed into a physical form, it would be able to leave the dungeon. Then, it had agreed to kill a few people for Yi Qianying, Yun Ruoyan, Pei Xiao, and the Crown Prince, Li Qianshao. Yun Ruoyan was naturally the person Yi Qianying hated the most, but her hatred for Pei Xiao wasn't shallow either. Li Qianshao, on the other hand, was the person who had directly harmed her. These 3 people were all people she wanted to kill as soon as possible. Yi Qianying's yang energy had been almost completely absorbed by the phantom, and her life wasn't long. It doesn't matter whether what you said is true or not. It doesn't mean anything to me. There is no medicine for regret in this world. Since I still have a month to live, I want to personally see these 3 die before me. Can you do that? Yi Qianying finally accepted her fate. Her pale face took on a fierce expression as she said to the phantom, "Since I still have a month to live, I want to see these 3 die before me." The figure thought for a moment before replying, "With my current strength, it would be very dangerous for me to kill someone in Kongming Academy. If I were discovered, I'd be dead for sure, so I don't want to take the risk." However what? Yi Qianying asked. "However, if you are willing to pay the price again, I will take this risk," Phantom replied. "I'm already a dead man. What price can I pay?" Yi Qianying was surprised. "Your body." Phantom replied, "I still have a long way to go before I become a real entity, so before that, I need a body." "Sure." Yi Qianying didn't hesitate. Since she was about to die, she naturally didn't care about her own body. Even if she didn't give it to Phantom, it would only slowly rot away. "Alright, we've made a deal. I'll take action tonight. I really don't want to come back to this godforsaken place to suffer." Crown Prince Li Qianshao pushed open the door to his own courtyard and walked in. To others, Kongming Academy was like a paradise on earth, but to Li Qianshao, it wasn't as luxurious as the Li Kingdom's imperial palace, nor were there any of the taverns or brothels in the capital. He had used his status as the crown prince to arrive later than everyone else, but he was still reluctant to do so. "I'll report my arrival here, then find an opportunity to descend the mountain." Li Qianshao began to plan as soon as he entered the courtyard. "After descending the mountain, I won't return to the capital. My 4th brother is currently at the Yuela Villa, so I'll go play with him for a couple of days before returning to the capital to play with my 2nd brother. As long as I don't get discovered by father, everything will be fine." Li Qianshao was followed by 2 of his disciples, each of whom was carrying 7 or 8 bags of various sizes. His bag was filled with all sorts of daily necessities he brought from the imperial palace, as well as little trinkets to pass the time. The 2 disciples placed the items in the room and left, leaving Li Qianshao alone in the courtyard. "I'm too tired from the journey. I'll go take a nap before reporting to the academy," Li Qianshao muttered to himself as he walked into the room. As soon as he entered, he felt a strange, cold air permeate the room. He thought it was because no one was staying here during the holidays, so he didn't think too much of it. Li Qianshao collapsed onto his bed and quickly fell asleep. In his dreams, he was spending the night with the spring brothel's top courtesan, Miss Yun. Lady Xiao Yun's soft and delicate body clung onto him. Her face was delicate and beautiful, her eyebrows were like silk, making him unable to stop. But just as he was enjoying himself, Miss Yun's face suddenly morphed into that of a skeleton, her 2 black eyes staring straight at him. "Ah!" Li Qianshao screamed as he awoke from his dream. Only then did he realize that the sky was completely dark, and there was no sound at all. Li Qianshao wasn't a timid person, and he hadn't felt any discomfort living alone in this courtyard. However, the dream he had just had made him tremble in fear. As he stood up from his bed to look for a match on the table, he suddenly began to reminisce about the times when Yi Qianying was still around. Although the 2 of them rarely spoke, she was still a person. Li Qianshao lit the match in his hand, and a dim yellow light gradually illuminated the room. Just as Li Qianshao was about to light the lamp on the table, he suddenly noticed a figure standing in the corner. "Who's there?" he asked, but upon closer inspection, the figure disappeared again. Li Qianshao wiped the sweat off his forehead with his sleeve, then lit the lamp. "What's wrong with me today?" he muttered to himself. "Why am I having a nightmare and seeing things?" "You're not seeing things, I'm right behind you." A sinister voice, male or female, suddenly rang out beside Li Qianshao's ear. Li Qianshao's ears went numb, as if someone had secretly blown a gust of cold wind into his ear. Then, half of his face went numb, and then his entire body went numb. He stiffened his neck and slowly turned his head to look, only to see a black shadow with both feet off the ground, floating just a few feet away from him. Li Qianxiao opened his mouth, but before he could even say a word, the black figure was already right in front of him. A ghostly claw clamped around Li Qianxiao's neck. Gradually, Li Qianxiao found it hard to breathe. Under the threat of death, he had already forgotten his fear. He pulled out an accessory dagger from his waist and stabbed it into the black figure's body. However, the black figure was incorporeal, and Li Qianxiao's resistance was futile. Remember. The black figure turned to Li Qianxiao, whose face had turned purplish red. The person who wants to kill you is Yi Qianying, and she wants you to pay for what you did to her. With a crack, Li Qianxiao's neck tilted, and he finally stopped breathing. The black figure's grip loosened, and Li Qianxiao's corpse fell heavily to the ground. The black figure picked up the ornamental dagger from the ground, then picked up the oil lamp on the table and lit the curtains on the bed. In a flash, it disappeared without a trace. Yi Qianying stood in the middle of her courtyard, expressionless as she stared in the direction of the Qianxiao courtyard. She watched as a fire lit up in that direction, growing larger and larger until the entire sky was dyed red. A smile appeared on Yi Qianying's face, and it grew wider and wider. She laughed so hard that she cried and bent over. The black figure appeared in front of Yi Qianying and handed the dagger to her. Keep it. Yi Qianying didn't take the dagger. Next, use this dagger to kill Yun Ruoyan and Pei Xiao. I went to the cottage by the cliff that you mentioned, the black figure replied. There were 2 auras in the cottage, one of which was so strong that I wasn't its match. The other wasn't weak either, but it was weaker than me. That aura must be the Slaughtering King, Yi Qianying replied. He's an instructor at Kongming Academy, and Yun Ruoyan's master in name. As for the other one, that should be Yun Ruoyan. As long as you avoid the Slaughtering King and find an opportunity to kill Yun Ruoyan, you'll be fine. I heard that there'll be a trial for all the students heading to the alternate dimension tomorrow. I'll sneak in and find an opportunity, the black figure replied. The next day, the second training session officially began. This time, Li Mo was still the one leading the group. This time, they entered an isolated island. There were a few magical beasts on the island, but they weren't very powerful. Even the weakest of the group, a 7th-rank blade master, had no problem dealing with them. Because it was nearing the time to head to the alternate dimension, the elders had chosen a less dangerous location for the students to train in. The magical beasts here aren't very powerful, Li Mo began. Now, split yourselves into groups and begin hunting. You'll be given 3 mid-rank beast cores and 10 low-rank beast cores. Once you're done, gather back here. Because there had always been some tension between the various faculties, Li Mo still chose to split the students into groups in order to reduce conflict. Very quickly, the 29 students split into 7 or 8 groups, each of which headed toward the interior of the island from different directions. Chapter 335. Li Mo, Yun Ruoyan, the Lin sisters, and Zhuo Feng formed a team. Guan Ruliu, Zhong Yang, and the male student called Zhou Lin were in the same group. Pei Xiao, Rong Yuashan, and another student from the Northern College were in the same group. The rest of the students did the same. They formed groups of 3 or 4 and headed toward the interior of the island from different directions. Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan walked in front of the group, followed by the Lin sisters and Zhuo Feng. Lin Qingxue followed beside Zhuo Feng. Last night, the fire in the Crown Prince's courtyard was really scary. The Crown Prince actually died in the fire. Lin Qingxue sighed. Brother Zhuo, why do you think a place as rich as Kongming Academy would suddenly have such a strange fire? I don't know. Zhuo Feng shook his head. Kongming Academy was situated high in the clouds, and the weather had always been mild. Ever since the Academy's founding, there had been almost no records of a fire breaking out. But last night, just as most of Kongming Academy's students had fallen asleep, the Crown Prince's residence was suddenly engulfed in a strange fire. The fire was burning fiercely. By the time everyone discovered it and rushed over to put out the fire, there was nothing left of the Crown Prince's courtyard. By the time one of the instructors rushed into the flames and pulled Li Qianxiao out, he was already burnt beyond recognition. Ruoyan, what do you think? Unable to satisfy Lin Qingshua's curiosity, Shuifeng quickly walked up to Yun Ruoyan's side. There's indeed something fishy about this fire. Her cliffside cottage was quite a distance from the Crown Prince's manor, and she and Li Mo had been engaged in dual cultivation that night. As a result, the fire hadn't affected them at all. In the morning, however, the first elder had urgently summoned Li Mo, and Yun Ruoyan had accompanied him. They examined Li Qianxiao's corpse, only to find that it had been charred beyond recognition. It was impossible to determine if there had been any fatal injuries, but both Li Mo and the first elder detected a strange aura emanating from the corpse. Li Qianxiao is the crown prince of the Li Kingdom, and his death in Kongming Academy is a mystery. Emperor Li and Empress Li won't let this matter rest, Lin Qingchen said from behind. The elders are going to have a headache this time, Lin Qingxue continued. Everyone's gaze landed on Li Mo, waiting for him to speak. Only Yun Ruoyan knew that Li Mo wasn't related to the Li Kingdom's imperial family. In their eyes, Li Mo was Li Qianxiao's uncle, but Li Mo didn't seem to care at all about his nephew's death. However, Li Mo had always been cold and aloof to others, so this unusual reaction was understandable. Li Mo didn't want to comment on the matter, but when he saw Yun Ruoyan tilting her head at him, he began, "That's all Kongming Academy can do to get to the bottom of the matter and give him justice. Kongming Academy has always been superior to the four kingdoms, and even the emperor of a kingdom can't do anything to it." As they spoke, they had already entered the forest on the island. "Look, there are footprints of magical beasts." Lin Qingxue pointed at a patch of grass in front of them. There were obvious signs of magical beast activity in the grass. As soon as Lin Qingxue finished speaking, there was a commotion in front of them, mixed with the roars of magical beasts. "It sounds like a group of low-rank beasts, as well as a mid-rank one," Shuifeng commented. "Let's go take a look," Lin Qingxue and Lin Qingchen said in unison. Li Mo's request was for 3 mid-rank beast cores and 10 low-rank beasts cores. With such a low request, Yun Ruoyan, Li Mo, and Shuifeng naturally didn't need to do anything. Actually, Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan didn't need to participate in this trial, but Li Mo had to lead the team. Yun Ruoyan, on the other hand, had to accompany Li Mo and train her 2 sisters. Not long after they walked in the direction of the commotion, they saw a dozen or so low-level magical beasts. The devil-eyed wolves were besieging a mid-level magical beast, the scarlet flame tiger. Under normal circumstances, low-rank beasts wouldn't dare to provoke mid-rank beasts, unless they had an absolute advantage in numbers. No matter how large or strong mid-rank beasts were, they couldn't use spiritual energy to attack, so their battle was still a melee. By now, quite a few of the wolves had been killed by the scarlet flame tiger, and their corpses were tossed far away. The wolves' wild instincts had been aroused, and they pounced on the scarlet flame tiger and bit it until it was covered in blood. The Lin sisters only saw the scarlet flame tiger lower its head and bite off the neck of the devil-eyed wolf that was biting its foreleg. When the rest of the devil-eyed wolves saw that their companion was killed, they pounced on the scarlet flame tiger even more ferociously. "It looks like we won't even need to do anything to get the beast cores for free. Once both sides are injured, we'll just have to wait for the third party to reap the benefits." Lin Qingxue couldn't help but laugh as she watched the scene unfold before her. Shuifeng, who was at the side, drew his bow and shot an arrow at the scarlet flame tiger's head the moment she finished speaking. The arrow flew through the air, the snow-white arrowhead creating dazzling sparks in the air. Without the slightest deviation, the arrow pierced the scarlet flame tiger's forehead. The white arrowhead sunk into the scarlet flame tiger's head. The scarlet flame tiger only had time to howl as its two tiger eyes looked in Zhuo Feng's direction in despair. Its tall body fell heavily to the ground. All of the wolves froze, and then a dozen pairs of wolf eyes looked in their direction. The powerful aura that the group emitted immediately caused the wolves to tremble in fear, and they began to retreat in the opposite direction of the forest, clearly not wanting to provoke the group. With a whoosh, another snow-white arrowhead shot out, piercing right into the ground where the wolves were retreating. Then, with two whooshing sounds, Zhuo Feng shot out two arrows towards the demon wolf pack's left and right sides. The three arrows cut off the demon wolf pack's path of retreat. After doing all this, Zhuo Feng looked toward Lin Qingxue. Although he didn't say a word, his actions and gaze were telling her not to think about reaping the benefits of the third party. Qingchen, Qingxue, Yun Ruoyan called out. Yun Ruoyan spoke up. The purpose of this trial is to increase our combat experience. These demon-eyed wolves are among the stronger of the low-rank beasts, and they'll be perfect for you to practice with. Hearing Yun Ruoyan's words, the two sisters glanced at each other, took out their weapons, and walked toward the wolves. I'd like to act alone, so I'll leave Qingchen and Qingxue to you, Zhuo Feng said to Yun Ruoyan. The spiritual energy in the alternate dimension was denser than in the outside world, and Zhuo Feng wanted to find a quiet place to cultivate the shield and whip he had just obtained from the first elder. Yun Ruoyan nodded at Zhuo Feng, and he turned to leave. Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo stood by the side, watching as Lin Qingxue and Lin Qingchen battled the wolves. As 7th-rank blade masters, it was still a challenge for the two of them to face off against a dozen wolves, and Yun Ruoyan made sure not to hurt them at all times. Don't be too nervous. Li Mo patted Yun Ruoyan's back. If you're too protective of them, it'll be detrimental to their growth. Yun Ruoyan sighed. I know, but I can't help but be nervous. They're all my family, and I can't bear to see them hurt in the slightest. Sister, be careful. Just then, a wolf attacked Lin Qingchen from behind. Lin Qingxue reacted quickly and threw the sword in her hand at the wolf's eye. Because of the short distance, and because Lin Qingxue had used all her strength, the sword stabbed deeply into the wolf's eye socket. Lin Qingchen's reaction was also very fast. When Lin Qingxue threw the sword in her hand at the wolf, Lin Qingchen turned around and grabbed the hilt of the sword that was stuck in the wolf's eye, pulling it out in one smooth motion. The wolf howled as it fell to the ground, twitching a few times before becoming motionless. Before another wolf could pounce on her, Lin Qingchen rushed toward it, sword in hand, and infused spiritual energy into the blade. The sword glowed with a faint white light, scaring the wolf so much that it fell to the ground, howling and begging for mercy. Ha ha ha. When Lin Qingxue saw this scene, she couldn't help but put her hands on her hips and laugh out loud. Chapter 337. Rong Yueshan stood up, brushed off the dust on her body, and stood calmly among the crowd, not at all afraid of offending Li Mo. She recalled what happened last night, and the corners of her mouth unconsciously curled into a hateful smile. Last night, when Rong Yueshan returned to her room from the academy, she suddenly discovered that there was an additional person in her room. This person was none other than Yi Qianying. In Rong Yueshan's eyes, Yi Qianying was no different from a dead person after being taken away by the Hall of Penitence. She couldn't help but be shocked to see a dead person suddenly appear in front of her. Her first thought was that Yi Qianying had died in the Hall of Penitence, and that the person in front of her was Yi Qianying's ghost. You don't have to be afraid. Just as Rong Yueshan was about to take action, Yi Qianying's voice rang out. I'm not a ghost, I'm a human. As Yi Qianying spoke, she turned on the lights in the room. Only when she saw Yi Qianying's shadow on the floor did Rong Yueshan heave a sigh of relief. Yi Qianying sat down in front of the table. Her body was as thin as a piece of paper, and under the light, her face was pale without a trace of blood. She was wearing a gray robe, clearly the uniform of a prisoner in the Hall of Penitence. Weren't you locked up in the Hall of Penitence? Why are you in my room? Rong Yuashan asked curiously. I can't blame you for being surprised, Yi Qianying said with a sigh. Yi Qianying sighed. I thought I was going to die in the Hall of Penitence's water dungeon, but I didn't expect Master Rong to suddenly release me with the First Elder's verbal order yesterday. He even gave me a slot to go to the other world. At the time, even I couldn't believe it. By now, Rong Yuashan had calmed down and slowly sat down opposite Yi Qianying. After hearing Yi Qianying's words, her heart, which had been heavy all day, grew even heavier. As if to herself, she murmured, it seems that the elders were right. That alternate world really isn't a place for humans. Otherwise, the second elder would never have released you. Yeah. Yi Qianying also accepted her fate and smiled, my life is no longer in my own hands. After saying this, Yi Qianying's tone suddenly became fierce. But even if I die, I won't let anyone off. Who? Rong Yuashan asked subconsciously. Yun Ruoyun. Yi Qianying gritted her teeth and said, if it weren't for her, I wouldn't have become like this. It was her who harmed me. Even if I die, I'll drag her down with me. Yi Qianying looked at Rong Yuashan, her eyes filled with the flames of revenge. Yuashan, can you help me? You hate Yun Ruoyun, but so do I. My desire to kill Yun Ruoyun is no less than yours. Rong Yuashan sighed helplessly. But Yun Ruoyun is no longer the same as she was a year ago. Not only is she protected by the Slaughtering King, she's already an 8th rank Blade Master herself. After about 15 minutes, Yun Ruoyun discovered a mid-rank magical beast, the Moya bear. Yun Ruoyun examined the bear's wound. It had been inflicted by a steel sword, and its skull had been split open by the sword. The beast core within its skull had been taken away. Clearly, they had been killed by Lin Qingxue and Lin Qingchen. Yun Ruoyun scanned her surroundings and found a green bandage hanging from a tree branch to the east. She hurriedly walked over and picked it up. Yun Ruoyun recognized the cloth. It was from Lin Qingchen's robe. Yun Ruoyun hurriedly continued in that direction. An hour later, Yun Ruoyun still hadn't found any trace of the two sisters. At first, Yun Ruoyun could still see traces of the two sisters, but as time went by, there wasn't even a trace left. Qingchen, Qingxue, where are you? Yun Ruoyun anxiously called out to her surroundings. Awo! Suddenly, she heard the agonized howls of a magical beast from the east. Yun Ruoyun hurriedly chased after the howls. 7 or 8 low-rank magical beasts and red-eyed boars were all lying on the ground, dead. Their stomachs had all been cut open, and their intestines were flowing everywhere. Its skull was also cut open and disappeared. However, its inner den was still left in the scarlet-eye boar's head and was not taken away. The scene in front of her was exactly as Zhong Yang and Guan Ruliu had described. In other words, these magical beasts had all been killed by a crazed Zhou Lin. Yun Ruoyun looked around. Suddenly, a green cloth appeared in front of her again. Yun Ruoyun felt her head buzz. Not good, Qingchen and Qingxue still met Zhou Lin. That green cloth was still hanging from a tree in the east. Yun Ruoyun was so anxious that she didn't even have time to pick it up. She continued running east. After Yun Ruoyun left, a strange gust of wind blew the cloth into the air, landing on a tree branch to the west. She didn't know how long she'd been chasing, but she'd unknowingly stumbled into a gray fog. It was as if a large black cloud had suddenly obscured the sun, and her surroundings had turned gray and hazy. She couldn't see more than 6 meters ahead. Qingchen, Qingxue. Yun Ruoyun continued to call out to her surroundings. Suddenly, a rustling sound came from all directions. Yun Ruoyun could tell that it was the sound of a person running at top speed, their body rubbing against tree branches. Zhou Lin, is that you? Yun Ruoyan immediately focused on the sound, trying to determine its direction. Zhou Lin, don't try to fool me. Come out. Yun Ruoyan bellowed at the constantly moving voice. I don't dare to stop. Your spiritual sword has a murderous aura to it. A hoarse and unpleasant male or female voice suddenly rang out. It said, if I'm pierced by that sword, my many years of cultivation will go to waste. Where did you come from, demon? Yun Ruoyan looked in the direction of the voice. Are my two sisters in your hands? Ha ha ha, the demon laughed coldly. That's right, your two sisters are in my hands. What do you want? Yun Ruoyan shouted. Don't worry, my target isn't your two sisters, the voice continued. My target is you, and your two sisters are nothing more than bait. As long as you obediently accept your death, I won't harm your sisters. How about it? One life for two lives, this isn't a bad deal, is it? What enmity do you have with me that you must take my life? Yun Ruoyan asked, but she sent spiritual energy into her ears to listen for even the slightest movement from the voice. Strangely, Yun Ruoyan discovered that the direction the voice was coming from wasn't the same direction as the sound of a human body rubbing against a tree. Both were in constant change of position, but the rustling noise was unmistakably coming from the forest of trees on the ground around them. And that strange voice had come from above. There was only one possibility for such a situation to occur. Yun Ruoyan wasn't facing one enemy, but two. Chapter 338. I have no grudge against you. The person who wants your life is someone else, the phantom replied. As Phantom answered Yun Ruoyan, she floated in midair and circled around Yun Ruoyan. In the forest below, the Phantom was controlling Pei Zio to circle around Yun Ruoyan in order to distract her. As long as Yun Ruoyan let her guard down, it would mercilessly kill her on the spot. Then, it would dig out Yun Ruoyan's heart and give it to Yi Qianying. This was the price Yi Qianying had to pay in exchange for her body. However, even after talking to Yun Ruoyan for quite a while, Yun Ruoyan was still on high alert, and she didn't relax in the slightest. Moreover, the Phantom was quite wary of the scarlet eye sword in her hand, so it didn't dare to act rashly. Who wants to kill me? Yun Ruoyan continued. I can't tell you that, not until you're dead. Yun Ruoyan suddenly remembered that Lin Qingxue and Lin Qingchen had told her that Zhong Yang had seen Yi Qianying in the academy, but Yi Qianying hadn't appeared in front of everyone. In the entire Kongming Academy, the only people who wanted her dead were Rong Yuashan and Yi Qianying. When Yun Ruoyan saw Rong Yuashan, she felt that she seemed more like an accomplice than the mastermind. In that case, there could only be one mastermind, Yi Qianying, who had suddenly been released. Did you kill the crown prince, Li Qianshao? Yun Ruoyan suddenly asked. If Yi Qianying could send someone to kill her, then she could have sent someone to kill Li Qianshao as well. Yun Ruoyan believed that Yi Qianying's hatred for Li Qianshao was no less than her hatred for Yun Ruoyan. Moreover, Li Qianshao's death was very strange, and the strange aura that lingered on his corpse was very similar to that of this phantom. Putting all of these together, Yun Ruoyan was almost certain that Li Qianshao had been killed by this phantom, and that the mastermind behind it was Yi Qianying. Is Yi Qianying the mastermind behind you? Yun Ruoyan asked. Since you already know everything, I can't let you live any longer, the black figure suddenly called out. Pei Zio, kill Yun Ruoyan. Then, Yun Ruoyan heard the rustling sound suddenly stop. In just a few blinks of an eye, the rustling sound suddenly turned into a piercing sound that pierced towards Yun Ruoyan. A white beam of light pierced through the air toward Yun Ruoyan. Cloud-breaking spear. Yun Ruoyan cried out in her heart. She quickly took out the scarlet eye spiritual sword, but she only had time to shrink it to the size of a dagger before the tip of the spear was right in front of Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan blocked with Scarlet Eye's dagger. With a clang, sparks flew in the air. Pei Zio's cultivation was lower than Yun Ruoyan's, and he was forced to retreat a few steps before regaining his footing. It was only then that Yun Ruoyan was able to see his face clearly. His face was expressionless, and his eyes were lifeless. Clearly, he had been controlled by a sorcery spell. Your cultivation isn't low, after all. How does your heart taste? The voice asked greedily. The heart of a cultivator with a high cultivation is a great tonic to me, much more nutritious than those inferior beasts. Of course, it'd be even better if you had a cultivator's beast core, but I don't think there's anything as precious as a human's beast core on this low-level continent. The voice kept talking, trying to distract Yun Ruoyan, but she was able to multitask. Her eyes were focused on Pei Zio's every movement, and her ears were focused on every word that came out of the voice's mouth. Seeing that she couldn't distract Yun Ruoyan, the phantom ordered Pei Zio, "What are you waiting for? Kill her." Pei Zio didn't hesitate at all after receiving the order. He threw the spear in his hand at Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan was very familiar with the spear's movements, and she naturally knew that Pei Zio was using a spell to control the spear to attack her from afar. His cultivation was lower than hers, so this method was much safer. It seemed that even though he had become a puppet, his combat skills wouldn't be affected. Yun Ruoyan gripped the scarlet eye, which had transformed into a sword, and prepared to receive the spear's attack. But suddenly, her vision went dark, so dark that she couldn't even see her fingers in front of her. The phantom had taken advantage of Yun Ruoyan's preoccupation with the spear to conjure a cloud of ghostly mist that enveloped Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan hadn't expected this. Before she could even react to the darkness, she felt the spear in front of her. Without any time to think, Yun Ruoyan subconsciously used the scarlet eye in her hand to block the spear. With a clang, the scarlet eye struck the spear, but instead struck the handle of the spear. Yun Ruoyan felt a sharp pain in her neck. The spearhead had pierced through her neck. Fortunately, she had formed a protective layer of spiritual energy around her body in time. Although the tip of the cloud-piercing spear had pierced through the spiritual energy membrane and cut through her skin, fortunately, the wound was not very deep. Yun Ruoyan touched the wound on her neck. The bleeding wasn't serious, and it wouldn't affect her ability to fight in the short term. Ha ha ha. The phantom suddenly cackled. What fragrant blood. I've suddenly discovered that you're a rare cauldron. Ha ha ha, your heart is comparable to the inner core of a peak first-rank cultivator, and it'll be a great tonic for me. Pei Zio, kill her, now. The phantom frantically ordered Pei Zio, and the spear continued to attack Yun Ruoyan in the pitch-black darkness. Yun Ruoyan relied on her instincts to block the spear's attacks, but after dozens of exchanges, Yun Ruoyan's arms and legs were riddled with wounds from the spear. Cho-cho, wake up. I need your help. Yun Ruoyan called out to Cho-cho in her mind as she tried to fend off the spear's attacks. Ever since Yun Ruoyan had become an 8th-rank blade master, Cho-cho had been spending more and more time cultivating. Sometimes, it wouldn't wake up for more than 10 days. Liamo had said that such a long period of cultivation was extremely important to Cho-cho, so unless it was an emergency, Yun Ruoyan wouldn't wake Cho-cho so easily. However, she was in a perilous situation, and Yun Ruoyan couldn't care less. Mistress, what's the matter? Cho-cho had clearly just woken up, and it still hadn't figured out what was going on. But before Yun Ruoyan could explain, Cho-cho realized that Yun Ruoyan was in a precarious situation. Where's Liamo? Cho-cho asked. I left in a hurry and got separated from him, Yun Ruoyan replied. I'll try to contact him, Cho-cho replied. After this period of cultivation, Cho-cho's mental strength had already surpassed Yun Ruoyan's. Not only could it bypass the bracelet seal, but it could also communicate with Liamo, whose mental strength was just as strong. Liamo was flying through the forest on his sword. He had also seen the green bandage that Yun Ruoyan had seen earlier, but it was heading in a completely different direction from Yun Ruoyan's. As a result, Liemo chased in the opposite direction. Even after chasing for a long distance, he still hadn't caught sight of Yun Ruoyan's figure. Given his speed, if he was heading in the right direction, he would have caught up to her long ago. Damn it, I've been tricked. Liemo cursed under his breath as he hurriedly flew back on his sword. Less than 15 minutes later, he suddenly heard Qiuqiu's voice in his mind. Liemo, come quickly. Mistress is in danger. As soon as Liemo heard this news, his already galloping figure almost doubled in speed. Because Liemo's speed had suddenly increased, the spiritual barrier around his body didn't react in time. As a result, the surrounding tree branches scraped against his face, leaving a few bloody scratches. The spiritual barrier around Liemo's body quickly solidified, protecting him as he dashed toward the location Qiuqiu had told him. Mistress, hold on a little longer. Liemo will be here soon, Qiuqiu urged. By now, Yun Ruoyan's entire body was covered in wounds. Although none of them were fatal, they were no different from an ant's bite. Once there were too many of them, however, they could still cause harm to a person. Yun Ruoyan gritted her teeth and continued fighting with Pei Zio, but she suddenly felt something strange. The wounds all over her body emitted a cool feeling. Accompanying this cool feeling was a strange numbness and itchiness. This feeling spread from light to deep into her bones. Mistress, this black fog is poisonous. Qiuqiu exclaimed anxiously. It's a type of corpse poison that can circulate through a person's bloodstream, turning them into a puppet at the whim of its master. Is there an antidote for this poison? Yun Ruoyan could feel the poison rapidly traveling to her brain and heart. Before Qiuqiu could reply, Liemo's voice came from not too far away. Liemo. Yun Ruoyan opened her mouth to call out Liemo's name, but she found that her tongue had gone numb, and her limbs were slowly losing control. Yun Ruoyan felt a sharp pain in her chest, and the black fog in front of her slowly dissipated. Liemo's figure appeared in front of Yun Ruoyan. Liemo was standing not far from Yun Ruoyan. In front of him was a large ball of fire, within which was a struggling black figure. The figure was screaming in pain, and it was impossible to tell whether it was male or female. Pei Zio had collapsed in front of Liemo, and it was unclear whether he was dead or alive. Yun Ruoyan looked down to see that the spear had pierced her chest, but she didn't feel any pain at all. Her entire body was numb, including her heart and brain. Yun Ruoyan felt as if her body were floating, and she couldn't control herself as she fell to the ground. Just then, a firm embrace caught her just in time. When she saw Liemo's sorrowful face slowly approaching her, she forced out, Liemo, don't turn me into a puppet. Chapter 339. Yun Ruoyan sunk into the endless darkness, but her consciousness was abnormally clear. In the darkness, her entire body was numb, and she couldn't move at all. Then, she felt a sharp pain all over her body, as if she were being burned. She wanted to scream, but she found that she couldn't even open her mouth, much less make a sound. This pain seemed to last for hundreds of years, until one day, when the flames around her body began to extinguish, and the pain began to subside. Yun Ruoyan felt herself being enveloped by a warmth that she didn't know where it came from. In this comfortable warmth, Yun Ruoyan's consciousness finally drifted off. In her dreams, Yun Ruoyan suddenly returned to her past life. Despite her family's objections, she had stubbornly married Pei Zio, then been imprisoned in a filthy woodshed by Pei Zio and Yi Qianying. Finally, Pei Zio had personally fed her poison. Poisoned, she had been thrown out of the Pei Manor by Pei Zio and Yi Qianying like a wild dog. She lay in the rain, gasping for breath as she waited for death to come. In her daze, Yun Ruoyan began to be unable to distinguish between dream and reality. Was this a dream, or was everything that was happening now real, and everything that had happened before was just a dream? Suddenly, an umbrella appeared above her head. Yun Ruoyan opened her eyes and saw an ink-colored robe with golden edges. A cold, male voice rang out. Daughter of the Yun family, I thought that you'd one day come to your senses and turn the tables. This voice was incomparably familiar, so familiar that whenever she closed her eyes, it would ring in her ears. Li Mo, is that you? Yun Ruoyan called out Li Mo's name. She tried to raise her head to see his face clearly, but the rain had drenched her hair and covered her eyes. She could vaguely see the man in front of her slowly bending down, his warm fingers brushing aside the wet hair on her forehead. Yun Ruoyan could finally see the man's face clearly. His hair was black, his eyebrows were black, his nose was tall, and his lips were thin. His long, bright eyes were staring at her silently. Li Mo, it really is you. Yun Ruoyan tried to raise her head and speak, but Li Mo clearly didn't hear her. The weak have no right to live. Li Mo's cold voice rang out from his thin lips, then he straightened up and turned to leave. The rain covered her once more, and she no longer had the strength to shout. All she could do was reach out a bony hand toward Li Mo, as if trying to grab onto something. Li Mo, don't go. Li Mo, don't abandon me. On the second floor of Kongming Academy's southern tower, Yun Ruoyan, who had been unconscious for nearly 2 months, was lying on Li Mo's bed. Her hands kept waving in the air as if she was trying to grab onto something. She was so helpless and desperate. Li Mo was talking to the first elder outside when he suddenly heard Yun Ruoyan's murmurs. He rushed into the room and grabbed her hand. However, Li Mo stood up without hesitation. He turned to Yun Ruoyan. Just you wait. I'll go prepare something delicious for you. Li Mo left the second floor of the southern tower on his sword. Yun Ruoyan felt a little apologetic as she watched him leave in the direction of the dining hall. It looks like the outer disciple in charge of the dining hall will have to wake up in the middle of the night to cook for her. About 5 minutes later, Li Mo returned on his sword with a lunchbox in his hand. Yun Ruoyan was about to get up, but Li Mo motioned for her not to move. He then placed the box on her bed. It smells so good. What's inside? Before the lid of the box was even opened, the aroma of food wafted out, causing Yun Ruoyan's stomach to growl. It's your favorite. Li Mo smiled as he opened the box and brought out a plate of braised pork and a plate of roasted chicken. The 2 plates of meat emitted a fragrant aroma that permeated the entire room. Li Mo handed a pair of chopsticks to Yun Ruoyan, who impatiently picked up a piece of braised pork and put it into her mouth. The meat melted in her mouth, and the aroma spread from her mouth to her stomach. Her stomach immediately quietened down. It's delicious. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but exclaim. Who's the chef to be able to make braised pork taste so good in such a short period of time? It's right in front of you. Li Mo smiled. Chapter 340. You cooked all this? Yun Ruoyan asked incredulously. Li Mo smiled and nodded. When he saw that Yun Ruoyan's mouth was stained with oil, he took out a handkerchief and wiped it away. These past 2 months, I've been thinking about how hungry you'd be when you woke up, so whenever I had the time, I'd go to the kitchen and make these 2 dishes of yours. Li Mo seemed to have discovered some incredible secret. I discovered that the braised pork and roasted chicken not only cooked faster, but also tasted better if they were cooked with spiritual fire. Yun Ruoyan looked at the 2 dishes on the small wooden table in front of her, and her heart warmed. No wonder they taste so good. So you used spiritual fire to cook them. If anyone were to find out that a sword saint would use such precious spiritual fire to cook, they'd be so shocked that they'd bite their own tongues. Seeing Yun Ruoyan smiling contentedly as she ate the food he'd cooked, Li Mo felt a deep sense of satisfaction in his heart. The scene in front of him was exactly what he'd been looking forward to for the past 2 months, and he couldn't help but reach out to brush aside a strand of hair on Yun Ruoyan's forehead. When Li Mo's warm fingers touched Yun Ruoyan's forehead, she froze. In her dream, she had looked up at Li Mo amidst the heavy rain, and Li Mo had reached out to brush aside her stray hair. "What's the matter?" Seeing that Yun Ruoyan was motionless and dazed, Li Mo asked worriedly, "Is the wound on your chest hurting?" Yun Ruoyan's chest had been pierced by Pei Zio's spear. Fortunately, the tip of the spear had missed her heart by half an inch, or even Li Mo and the first elder wouldn't have been able to save her. Yun Ruoyan touched the wound on her chest. Even through the thin material of her clothes, she could still feel the slight protrusion of the scar, but she didn't feel any pain. "I've given you a high-grade spiritual pill, and the wound has mostly healed. If you keep using it for a few more days, even the scar will disappear completely," Li Mo explained as he touched Yun Ruoyan's forehead. Yun Ruoyan looked up at him, her eyes suddenly glazed over. "What's the matter, Yen Er? Are you feeling unwell?" Li Mo looked at Yun Ruoyan nervously. "Li Mo, I'm scared." "What are you afraid of?" "With me around, you don't have to be afraid of anything. I'm afraid that everything in front of me is a dream." Yun Ruoyan murmured as she leaned into Li Mo's embrace, her arms wrapping tightly around his waist. "I had a dream when I was unconscious." Yun Ruoyan's voice was small. "In my dreams, you're still that cold and cheerless prince, and I'm a homeless man on the streets, on the verge of death. You just looked at me coldly, said a few words to me coldly, and then left. I wanted to cry out your name, but no sound came out. I could only stretch out my hand in vain to grasp you. But I couldn't grab onto anything. I could only watch as you walked further and further away, leaving me with only a cold back view. Li Mo, I'm so afraid that this dream will become reality. I'm afraid that everything I'm seeing right now is just a dream." Li Mo could sense her fear, and this fear of losing her had been a constant part of his life for the past 2 months. "Yen Er, look at me." Li Mo cupped Yun Ruoyan's face in his hands. Their eyes met, and their eyes seemed to be filled with a sea of stars. "This isn't a dream." Li Mo placed Yun Ruoyan's hand on his own face. "I'm real." "Yes." Yun Ruoyan finally smiled. "Li Mo, don't ever leave me, alright? Don't ever let me see your back slowly fade away from me. It's a cold, painful feeling, and I'm afraid just thinking about it." "Alright." Li Mo leaned forward and kissed her. Their two bodies, so attached to each other, quickly became fiery hot. Li Mo had pinned Yun Ruoyan to the ground, and Yun Ruoyan had kicked over the small wooden table on the bed. "Yen Er, your body." Li Mo suppressed his body's desire as he looked at the blushing Yun Ruoyan. "I'm fine." Yun Ruoyan wrapped her arms around Li Mo's neck and planted a light kiss on his lips. "Li Mo, I need you to treat my wounds." She gasped for breath. "Li Mo, I need you to heal me." Li Mo could no longer suppress his body's desire. With a wave of his hand, he pulled down the bed drapes. Through the hazy white bed drapes, a dazzling white light began to shine. In the gloomy night, a figure stood silently in a hidden corner outside the southern tower. Shuifeng held a wild rabbit that he had carefully roasted, and he had been standing there for who knew how long. For nearly 2 months, he had been standing there every night. Yun Ruoyan loved to eat his roasted meat, and Shuifeng knew that the first thing she would do when she woke up would be to eat. As a result, he had been waiting for her every day. Ever since Yun Ruoyan had been brought back to the southern tower, Shuifeng had only seen her once with the Lin sisters. Since then, apart from the first elder, Li Mo had forbidden anyone from approaching Yun Ruoyan. Even so, Shuifeng continued to wait day after day for nearly 2 months. Even though he knew that his efforts would be futile, and that he wouldn't be able to see Yun Ruoyan even if she woke up, he would. But every night, Shuifeng couldn't help but come, as if this was the only way he could make himself feel better. When Zhuo Yifeng thought back to when he had seen Li Mo carrying Yun Ruoyan, who was covered in blood and barely breathing, he couldn't help but blame himself for leaving her. Why had he left Yun Ruoyan in Li Mo's care? If he had stayed by her side as he had in the past, she wouldn't have been so heavily injured. When Zhuo Yifeng saw Li Mo fly back to the southern tower with the lunchbox, he excitedly stepped forward. Yun Ruoyan had finally woken up. Zhuo Yifeng looked up at the light above the southern tower and let out a soft sigh. Ruoyan, Zhuo Yifeng, swear that from now on, even if I have to sacrifice my life, I'll protect you from any harm, Zhuo Yifeng vowed. Zhuo Yifeng stared at the light of the southern tower until it was extinguished. Only then did he turn and leave. Instead of returning to the central tower, he went straight to the edge of the cliff, where he placed the cold meat over the fire and continued roasting it. Suddenly, a black shadow appeared behind Zhuo Yifeng. Master, Zhuo Yifeng called out to the shadow. I've told you many times that I'm not your master. The shadow sat down opposite Li Mo. Whether or not you acknowledge me as your disciple, the one who taught me cultivation is my master. As Zhuo Yifeng spoke, he handed the reheated meat to the black-clothed man. The black-clothed man took the meat, removed his mask, and began eating it. His face was still concealed by his large hood, making it impossible to see his true features. I'm leaving for the alternate dimension tomorrow, Zhuo Yifeng said. The black-clothed man paused in his eating, and Zhuo Yifeng saw him take out a flask of wine. He first took a sip, then handed it to Zhuo Yifeng. Zhuo Yifeng took the flask and took a large gulp. The fiery liquid flowed down Zhuo Yifeng's throat. How satisfying, he couldn't help but exclaim. This is a farewell wine I bought for you from the capital, the black-clothed man said. A man's ambition lies in the universe. Although the alternate dimension is a cruel place, with your cultivation and temperament, it shouldn't be difficult for you to survive there. Master, have you been to another world before? Zhuo Yifeng asked curiously after hearing the black-robed man's words. No. The black-clothed man gave him a negative answer. But although I haven't been there, I've heard many people who have, so I have some understanding of the alternate dimension. The black-clothed man then told Zhuo Yifeng some of his knowledge of the alternate dimension. In any case, when you're in the alternate dimension and your cultivation isn't high enough, remember to be patient, the black-clothed man said. He sighed. The alternate dimension is a place I've always wanted to visit since I was young. Today, you've helped me fulfill one of my wishes. Master, the quota for the alternate dimension isn't as precious as I thought it would be. Zhuo Yifeng hurriedly said, we've lost 2 students from the last trial. Now, all the academies are pushing each other around for these 2 quotas. No one is willing to send any more students. Some elders have suggested inviting the strongest cultivators on the continent. Why don't you? I can't. The black-clothed man immediately refused. I have my own mission to uphold. Even if I want to soar through the 9 heavens, I can't put it into action. Everyone had their own mission. Zhuo Yifeng naturally understood this. Chapter 341. Su Bei suppressed the agitation in his heart and said to Zhuo Yifeng, do you know that once you become associated with me, the disciple will inherit his master's legacy, and the son will inherit his father's legacy? My mission is your mission, and my responsibilities are your responsibilities. I know, Zhuo Yifeng replied resolutely. You don't even know what my mission and responsibility are, so how dare you accept this mission and responsibility? Don't be in a hurry to answer me. You're a free man now, and you can use your own abilities to soar through the heavens. As long as you work hard enough, you'll definitely have your own accomplishments. I don't wish for you to be restricted in any way. But, no matter how great my accomplishments are, what's the point if there's no one to share them with? Zhuo Yifeng smiled bitterly. I only have a sister, but she doesn't wish for me to have any accomplishments. Her only wish is to have parents, to have me, and to have a stable home. But I can't fulfill this wish. I'm sure she'd be overjoyed if I could have a foster father. When Zhuifeng mentioned Zhuolin, the image of a skinny little girl surfaced in Su Bei's mind. When Zhuolin was born, Su Bei hadn't been by her side. He'd only seen her once when she was very young, and Zhuolin's impression of him was based on Zhuifeng's description. As a result, when Su Bei appeared in front of Zhuolin didn't recognize him. She walked past him with a basket in her hand, not knowing that this tall man was her father. Su Bei followed Zhuolin all the way to the gates of the Lin Manor, only turning to leave after Zhuolin entered. We'll talk about this matter after you return from the other world. Su Bei ended his conversation with Li Mo with these words. He stood up and said, "We'll be leaving the day after tomorrow, so you'll have to cultivate diligently for the next 2 days. How's your progress with the advanced wood-type cultivation technique I just taught you?" Zhuifeng tossed the empty wine bottle in his hand over the cliff and stood up as well. He raised his hands, and countless vines appeared out of thin air. The vines gathered together in the air under Zhuifeng's command and twisted into a huge whip. With a snap, it hit a nearby rock, and the rock was instantly smashed into pieces. But as the stone crumbled, the whip made of twisted vines also dissipated into nothingness. You've trained your spiritual energy adept cultivation method pretty well, but your spiritual energy cultivation is still lacking. Su Bei took out a small black bottle and threw it to Zhuifeng. This is a spirit medicine that can help expand your spiritual sea. Take it and cultivate as much as you can. It will help you make some progress in 2 days. Zhuifeng looked at the bottle in his hand and said, "Thank you, master." But when he raised his head, the man in black had already disappeared. After a day and a night of dual cultivation, Yun Ruoyan felt that her injuries had indeed healed significantly, but her cultivation still couldn't return to the 8th rank she had been before her injury. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but grow a little anxious. Liamo comforted her, "Yen, it's already a miracle that you've recovered from such a serious injury. But at dawn tomorrow, the portal to the other world will open. Before then, I have to regain my 8th rank cultivation. Yen, haste makes waste." Li Mo's expression was solemn. "Even if you're dual cultivating with me, your body won't be able to take it for too long. You have to rest tonight." "But..." Yun Ruoyan wanted to refute. "No buts," Li Mo interrupted her. Yun Ruoyan's face fell, and Li Mo's heart ached when he saw her aggrieved expression. He pulled her into his embrace. "Yen, be good. Close your eyes and get some rest. Who knows, you might be back to 8th rank by tomorrow morning." Liamo coaxed her softly, his hand slowly reaching for the back of Yun Ruoyan's neck, finding a sleeping acupoint. "Don't try to coax me. That's too unlikely," Yun Ruoyan muttered. "No matter what, I'm going with you." As she spoke, she finally closed her eyes and sank into a deep, dark sleep. By the time Yun Ruoyan opened her eyes, the sky was already bright. "Liamo!" Yun Ruoyan screamed as she sat up on the bed. When she realized that there was no one beside her, she immediately stood up. However, because she had been bedridden for so long, her legs were weak, and she fell to the ground. "Liamo, where are you? You said you wouldn't leave me alone. You didn't keep your word." Yun Ruoyan screamed as she held on to the ground, tears streaming down her face. "Liamo, you bastard, I'll never trust you again." "Yen, who are you scolding?" Li Mo's voice suddenly rang out. Yun Ruoyan hurriedly raised her head toward the source of the voice. Liamo was walking in from outside, a lunchbox in his hands. "Liamo, you didn't leave." Yun Ruoyan looked at Liamo, both crying and laughing. I thought, you thought I'd gone to another world without a word, didn't you?" Liamo placed the lunchbox to the side, then picked up Yun Ruoyan and placed her back on the bed. Even if I had that thought, I wouldn't dare to do it. Otherwise, my little consort would never trust me again. You can't even think of that. Yun Ruoyan emphasized. Alright, I promise I won't have that thought in the future. Liemo smiled helplessly as he took out the breakfast from the lunchbox. After breakfast, Yun Ruoyan tried to form a spiritual barrier once more, but a miracle didn't happen. She was still unable to do so. Yun Ruoyan asked Liemo with a tearful face. We've already arranged for someone to take your place, Zhuifeng replied. As we agreed, if your cultivation hasn't recovered, you're to wait here for me. I'll return as soon as I save Qin Feng. When Yun Ruoyan had first woken up, Liemo had told her that although the two sisters had encountered the enslaved Pei Zio, they had managed to escape with great agility. By the time Liemo carried the heavily injured Yun Ruoyan back to the gathering point, the two sisters were already waiting for them. Only after hearing Liemo's words did Yun Ruoyan feel reassured to let her two sisters enter the alternate dimension. Zhuifeng stood behind the Lin sisters. Ever since he had entered, he had only glanced at Yun Ruoyan once, and he hadn't said a single word. Zhuifeng. Yun Ruoyan frowned. Zhuifeng finally turned his gaze toward Yun Ruoyan. What's the matter? I hope that you'll take good care of Qingxue and Qingchen this time, Yun Ruoyan replied. Why, aren't you coming with us? Zhuifeng asked. My cultivation hasn't recovered yet, so I can't go. Zhuifeng's solemn expression suddenly broke into a smile. That's fine. I'll do my best to protect Qingchen and Qingxue, don't worry. Time's up, the first elder called out, and the all-seeing mirror slowly opened before everyone's eyes. The pitch-black surface of the mirror looked like a sleeping eye that had suddenly awakened from a dream. However, this eye had no pupil, only a blinding white light. Chapter 342. The second elder hasn't appeared yet, Yun Ruoyan murmured. He must be late on purpose, she thought. He'll only appear when everyone has entered the alternate dimension and the all-seeing mirror is about to close. By then, even if there's something wrong with Yi Qianying, no one will be able to hold her accountable. What a sly old fox. Yun Ruoyan's guess wasn't wrong at all, that was exactly what the second elder was thinking. After all, Yi Qianying was a sinner, and if she were to be used as a substitute, the other elders would surely object. As such, he might as well kill her first. The first elder frowned when he saw that the second elder hadn't arrived. He whispered a few words to Tsang Song beside him, instructing him to go to the Northern College and see what was going on. The students of the Southern College were lined up in front of everyone else. The all-seeing mirror has opened. Everyone, get ready to enter the alternate dimension. As soon as the first elder finished speaking, a commotion broke out among the students. One of them pointed at the all-seeing mirror. Look! Yun Ruoyan looked up at the all-seeing mirror, only to see that the dazzling white light in the mirror had begun to spin faster and faster, forming a whirlpool. Then, the vortex flew out of the all-seeing mirror and landed on the ground, slowly expanding into a whirlpool. Everyone, step back. The students of the southern courtyard will be in front. Everyone, line up and prepare to enter. The great elder ordered. He told the students to maintain a certain distance and enter one by one. Sister Ruoyan, we're leaving now. Wait for us to return. Lin Qingxue and Lin Qingchen held on to Yun Ruoyan's hands reluctantly. Zhuifeng's gaze swept over Yun Ruoyan's body. Let's go. He then led the way to the front of the group. Yen be good in the Southern College. Liemo placed his large hand on Yun Ruoyan's cheek, and they felt each other's warmth for the last time. Your body's still weak, and the cottage by the cliff's edge is a little cold. Stay in the southern tower, and the first elder will take care of you. I'll be leaving now. Liemo turned to leave, but Yun Ruoyan grabbed him by the hand. Yen be good. Liemo was a little helpless. You promised me that you would never show your cold back to me. Yun Ruoyan lowered her head, and her soft voice drifted into Liemo's ears. Let me send you in, all right? Liemo couldn't resist Yun Ruoyan's pitiful voice. Holding her hand, he led her to a spot not far from the all-seeing mirror. This is as far as I can go. Any further and will be affected by the turbulence in the passage. Liemo stopped and turned to Yun Ruoyan. Liemo, hurry up. It'll be your turn soon, the first elder said. Both Yun Ruoyan and Liemo looked in the direction of the whirlpool. Lin Qingchen and Lin Qingxue were standing in front of the whirlpool about a person's length apart, and they were also looking in Yun Ruoyan's direction. Zhuo Yifeng had already taken the lead and walked in. Both sisters had formed a barrier of spiritual energy around their bodies, but even so, the turbulence in the passage still caused their hair and clothes to flutter in the wind. The two of them simultaneously waved at Yun Ruoyan, and then Lin Qingchen turned around and extended a hand to Lin Qingxue. Lin Qingxue hesitated for a moment, but she had already subconsciously reached out to grasp Lin Qingchen's hand. Hand in hand, the two sisters entered the whirlpool. The first elder frowned slightly, but didn't say anything. Next, he said to the next student, who was also the last student from the South Campus. That student had taken the spot of Zhou Lin, who had been killed by a ghost. Because his cultivation wasn't high enough, he had consumed a spirit-enhancing pill to forcibly raise his cultivation to 8th rank. The male student looked very nervous as he walked towards the whirlpool door. When the spirit force suddenly condensed on his body, he was shocked. Only when he discovered that the barrier could protect him did he relax and boldly walk into the whirlpool. Yen, be a good girl. Liemo kissed Yun Ruoyan on the forehead, then pried her hand away from his sleeve. Step by step, he walked toward the whirlpool, facing Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but take a step forward. The first elder's berating voice rang out. Ruoyan, don't go any closer. Yun Ruoyan stopped in her tracks. She watched as Liemo drew closer and closer to the vortex, his long, ink-black hair and loose robes fluttering in the wind. Yen, wait for me to come back, Liemo called out just as he was about to enter the whirlpool. Yun Ruoyan, on the other hand, flashed a bright smile at Liemo before she suddenly sped up and ran toward him. Yun Ruoyan. Yen, As the first elder and Liemo cried out in surprise, Yun Ruoyan rushed into Liemo's embrace, and the two of them fell into the whirlpool together. Yun Ruoyan felt a searing pain all over her body, no less intense than the searing pain she had felt when she was unconscious. The searing pain in her dream had been caused by the corpse poison, but the searing pain now was caused by the blades of wind that had cut into Yun Ruoyan's body. The moment she fell into the vortex gate, her back, arms, and calves were cut by the wind blades, leaving behind dozens of small wounds. Fortunately, Yun Ruoyan's face was buried deep in Liemo's chest, and she wasn't injured at all. Liemo's reaction was swift, and his barrier of spiritual energy quickly wrapped around Yun Ruoyan, protecting her from further harm. Yen, you. Liemo's tone was inevitably a little angry. I've never been an obedient girl. If not for the fact that His Highness was so anxious to save his beloved woman and burn me with spiritual fire for 2 more hours, perhaps I really would have been reduced to ashes. Unfortunately, the slaughtering king clearly didn't have the patience to do so, so I was lucky enough to survive. Who are you? I didn't have a name before, and I was nothing more than a ghost. But now, I have a name. Your Highness, you can call me Yi Qianying. The black shadow moved to the side as it spoke, and Liemo saw a person floating behind it, shrouded in spiritual energy. The person's face was thin, and her hair was disheveled. Even so, Liemo recognized her as Yi Qianying. Yi Qianying's eyes were wide open, and her face was expressionless as she floated in the air. She looked like a puppet, without the slightest trace of life. You turned her into your puppet? Liemo asked. She volunteered to be my puppet, the ghost replied. When I met her in the Hall of Penitence's water dungeon, I discovered that she possessed a rare body of Yin energy. Only such a body could withstand my possession without dying too quickly. As a result, I lured her into an agreement. As long as I killed Li Qianshao, Pei Zio, and Yun Ruoyan for her, she would sell her body to me. So you were the one who killed Li Qianshao? That's right, the ghost replied. I've already killed Li Qianshao and Pei Zio. All that's left is Yun Ruoyan. As long as I can kill her, I'll be able to answer to this new body of mine. With me around, don't even think about it. Ha! If we were anywhere else, I definitely wouldn't be able to do so. But in this spatial turbulence, I can move freely. The ghost was incorporeal, and the spatial turbulence didn't harm it in the slightest. In this place, I'm God. The ghost pounced toward Liemo and Yun Ruoyan. Chapter 343. The phantom was incorporeal, and as it pounced toward Yun Ruoyan and Liemo, its body passed right through them. Yun Ruoyan felt a chill run down her spine, and the spiritual energy barrier around her and Liemo's body was immediately covered in a layer of black fog. It's corpse energy. Liemo exclaimed. You're too arrogant to think you can defeat me with just this. A layer of spiritual fire appeared around Liemo's body. After reaching the peak of cultivation, spiritual energy could appear on the surface of one's body in the form of an elemental substance. Fire-attuned cultivators could take the form of spiritual fire, water-attuned cultivators could take the form of ice, wood-attuned cultivators could take the form of vines, leaves, and bark, and earth-attuned cultivators could take the form of stone. Liemo was a dual cultivator of both the earth-attuned and water-attuned, so he could exist in many different forms. The corpse energy released by the phantom was quickly incinerated by Liemo's spiritual fire. When the phantom saw this, it remarked, Slaughtering King, you truly live up to your reputation. You're already a peak blade master, but I was only testing you just now. However, I was just testing you just now. Now, it's time to get serious. As soon as it finished speaking, the phantom pounced toward Liemo and Yun Ruoyan once more. Then, it passed right through them and headed straight for Yi Qianying's body. This time, it didn't pass right through Yi Qianying's body, instead attaching itself to her. Yi Qianying's lifeless eyes immediately lit up, emitting a sinister light. Yi Qianying took out a steel sword and thrust it toward Liemo's chest while he was dealing with the corpse energy. With a clang, an arrow suddenly appeared and struck Yi Qianying's sword. The arrowhead was snow white, forged from Zhuo Feng's newly acquired tiger's fang. There's another one courting death. Yi Qianying looked in Zhuo Feng's direction and said sinisterly, You don't have a cultivation at the consummate level, do you? As soon as she finished speaking, the phantom detached itself from Yi Qianying's body and pounced toward Zhuo Feng. Zhuo Feng, be careful. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help calling out. Zhuo Feng had the Lin sisters by his side, and if Zhuo Feng was in any danger, the two of them would surely be implicated as well. At this moment, the spatial turbulence intensified once more. This time, it wasn't the wind blades that intensified, but the whirlpool's spinning speed that increased. All of the students in the whirlpool were uncontrollably pulled towards the same direction. Although the specter was not affected by the spatial turbulence, Yi Qianying's body was. When it turned around and saw Yi Qianying's body being swept away, it didn't care about anything else and immediately chased after her. During this process, 2 students were unfortunately pierced through by the ghosts, and a layer of corpse aura immediately appeared on the surface of their spirit force membranes. I'm about to enter the other world. Liemo's voice rang out by Yun Ruoyan's ear as he hugged her tightly in his arms. Yun Ruoyan was extremely worried that the turbulence would separate her and the Lin sisters. After spinning for some time, a blinding white light pierced through Yun Ruoyan's tightly shut eyelids, stinging her pupils. Suddenly, the white light disappeared, and so did the turbulence. Yun Ruoyan felt as if her entire body had calmed down. We're here, Li Mo announced. Yun Ruoyan slowly opened her eyes to see Li Mo flying through the air on his sword. We're in the other world. Yun Ruoyan's head was still a little dizzy from the sudden turn of events. Look over there. Li Mo pointed to the sky behind them, and Yun Ruoyan followed his finger. In the sky above them, there were several gigantic whirlpools of white light, from which a steady stream of people flew out. We came out from the second-to-last whirlpool, Li Mo explained. Indeed, Yun Ruoyan saw a familiar face in that whirlpool, a student from Kongming Academy. As for the other students who had come out from the other whirlpools, not only did Yun Ruoyan not recognize them, but she also found their attire and appearance very strange. Some of them were dressed extravagantly, and the spiritual weapons beneath their feet glowed with a myriad of colors. Every single one of them looked as if they had walked out of a painting. Others were dressed in coarse beast hides, and their appearances were extremely coarse. The spiritual weapons beneath their feet were of all shapes and sizes, some were beast bones, others were shells, and there was even a plump man who was standing on a chopstick. Are these cultivators from the other lower realms? Yun Ruoyan asked Li Mo as she observed them. Yes, Li Mo replied. Li Mo asked. His eyes scanned the people from the other planes. Although he'd learned a little about them from the First Elder and Empress Snow Eye, this was the first time he'd experienced one himself. Li Mo's instincts were immediately activated. Under the cover of his long black hair, his slender eyes were not only scrutinizing but also vigilant. Qingchen, where's Qingxue and Zhuifeng? Suddenly, Yun Ruoyan came to her senses and struggled out of Li Mo's robes. She looked all around her. Sister Ruoyan. Lin Qingchen's voice rang out from behind Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan turned in the direction of the voice and saw that Lin Qingchen was riding on a green sword. She was clearly not very proficient with it, and her body swayed a little, but the sword was still under her control. Li Mo slowed down, and Lin Qingchen caught up to him. Sister Ruoyan, have you seen Qingxue? Lin Qingchen's face was also full of anxiety. No, I was looking for the two of you just now, Yun Ruoyan replied. Is Zhuifeng missing as well? Yes, we were separated by the turbulence just now. I saw Brother Zhu chasing after Qingxue, and the blinding light forced me to close my eyes. When I opened them again, they were nowhere to be seen. If Qingxue was with Zhuifeng, she wouldn't be in danger, Yun Ruoyan comforted. Yun Ruoyan comforted Lin Qingchen, but she was still worried that Zhuifeng might not be able to catch up to her. After all, Lin Qingxue had never left home alone, let alone in a completely different world. Let's keep looking, Yun Ruoyan said, and the three of them began searching through the crowd. By now, there were quite a few cultivators flying around them. Just like Yun Ruoyan's group, they were constantly observing the people around them. It was clear that these people didn't know much about this new world, and they were both curious and wary of the people around them. That's Senior Sister Guan in front. Yun Ruoyan spotted Guan Ruliu flying on her sword about 3 or 4 people in front of them. Li Mo and Lin Qingchen also saw Guan Ruliu. Li Mo sped up on his sword, and Lin Qingchen followed closely behind. Just as Li Mo was about to overtake the person in front of him, that person seemed to be intentionally blocking Li Mo's path. If Li Mo went left, he would go left, and if Li Mo went right, he would go right. Whether it was up, down, left, or right, he blocked Li Mo's path. Unfortunately, this man was abnormally plump, like a small mountain, and the pair of slender chopsticks beneath his feet wasn't slow either. Qingchen. Yun Ruoyan turned and gestured to Lin Qingchen, who understood. While the fatty was blocking Li Mo's path to the right, Lin Qingchen dodged to the left and narrowly overtook the fatty from his left. Damn it! The fatty bellowed like a bull, then sped up to chase after Lin Qingchen. Liamo also sped up, overtaking the fatty from above, separating him and Lin Qingchen from each other. Yun Ruoyan couldn't see through the fatty's cultivation, but she guessed that it was higher than hers. However, from the speed at which he had chased after Lin Qingchen, he couldn't outrun Liamo. From this, Yun Ruoyan guessed that he was a mid-9th rank blade master. Where did these lowlifes come from? Don't you know the rules? A boisterous bellow rang out from behind Yun Ruoyan and Liamo. Watch me use my chopsticks to kick their butts. Both Yun Ruoyan and Liamo frowned at the fatty's crude words. Liamo turned back to the fatty and waved his hand, sending a sparrow flying toward the fatty's face like a dagger. What's that? The fatty didn't see what it was, but he subconsciously reached out to hit it. The sparrow nimbly dodged the fatty's attack, its long, sharp beak stabbing toward the fatty's large nose. My nose is going to fall off. The fatty howled as he clutched his nose with one hand and tried to grab the sparrow with the other. However, the sparrow was unusually agile, and as soon as it succeeded, it turned around and flew back to Liamo. Just you wait, I'm going to strangle you to death, the fatty roared. Old fatty, don't chase after it. At this time, a hot woman wearing a short shirt and shorts caught up with the fat man. She said to the fat man, that was a soul-stealing bird just now. If it screeched at you, you would immediately pass out. No one would be able to catch you with your size, and you'd fall to your death. Ah! The fatty looked at Liamo's back in shock. According to you, he's actually being polite to me. This man's cultivation is unfathomable. This isn't the Liyuan continent, so you'd better restrain yourself and go look for our lost teammates, the woman ordered, then turned to look at Liamo's back with a pair of wild eyes. Liamo felt a pair of eyes on him from behind, but he didn't turn around. Before he had a better understanding of this world, it was best not to get too involved with strangers. Well done. Yun Ruoyan looked at the soul-stealing bird perched on her hand. Flapped its wings twice, as if to say, it's a piece of cake, before flying off to either side of Yun Ruoyan or Liamo. This greedy bird has gotten used to being wild, Liamo commented. Ever since Liamo had brought Imo back to the Qinyuan continent from the forest of giant trees, it had disappeared without a trace, but Liamo hadn't paid much attention to it. Just a few days ago, the little fellow had suddenly returned, hiding in Liamo's wide sleeves and sleeping until it was awakened by the spatial turbulence. In front of them, Lin Qingchen had already caught up to Guan Ruliu, and Liamo had sped up to catch up to them. Have you seen Zongyang? Guan Ruliu asked as soon as she saw Yun Ruoyan and Liamo. Guan Ruliu and Zongyang had also entered the vortex one after the other, but the two of them had also been separated by the spatial turbulence. As a result, Zongyang and Yun Ruoyan's group now had one more person to look for. Just as they were frantically searching for him, a scream suddenly rang out from the crowd on their left. The group that had been flying peacefully away from the vortex suddenly became chaotic. The four of them turned around and saw a figure riding on a yellow sword light, rushing left and right in the crowd. Loud shouts rose and fell from the crowd. Where did this demon come from? Kill this demon that bites people. When everyone saw the person who was surrounded by a few people, their hearts instantly turned cold. That person was none other than Zongyang, whom they had been searching for. Chapter 344. Zongyang's eyes were unfocused, and his hair was disheveled. His mouth was full of blood, and his white robes were also stained with it. Beneath his feet was a yellow sword aura, and his body was askew, as if he would fall at any moment. At the moment, he was surrounded by 7 or 8 cultivators. 2 of them were clutching their necks, and blood was seeping out from between their fingers. Clearly, their blood vessels had been injured. Yun Ruoyan and Liamo exclaimed at the same time. Corpse poison has entered his body. As it turned out, one of the 2 students who had passed through the whirlpool gate was Zongyang. Who cares where he came from? Let's kill him first, one of the beast-skinned students who had been bitten by Zhong Yang shouted angrily. He looks like he's been poisoned. I wonder if it's contagious. The other student who had been bitten was a handsome young man dressed in embroidered robes. If that's the case, all the more reason to kill him. The others were all afraid that they would be the next to be bitten. They drew their weapons, ready to charge at Zhong Yang and kill him on the spot. Stop! A shrill voice came from not far away. The crowd turned to see a white-robed girl galloping toward them on a green sword aura. Guan Ruliu arrived in front of Zhong Yang and called out, Zhong Yang, what's wrong? Zhong Yang's eyes were unfocused as he looked at Guan Ruliu. As if he didn't recognize her, he bared his bloody teeth at her. You've finally found a companion, the man who had been bitten said. Your companion bit me, and I'm going to take his life. Are you going to step aside, or are you going to die with me? Guan Ruliu turned around and stood in front of Zhong Yang. She said coldly, if you want to kill him, you'll have to ask this sword in my hand first. As she said this, she took out a green, jade-like spirit sword. Miss, be careful. At this moment, a young girl's voice rang out. Guan Ruliu immediately dodged, but Zhong Yang, who was behind her, suddenly attacked her. If she hadn't dodged quickly enough, she probably wouldn't have been able to escape. Zhong Yang once again charged towards Guan Ruliu. Guan Ruliu's cultivation was higher than Zhong Yang's, and she cultivated a wood-type cultivation method. She stretched out her hand towards Zhong Yang, and a vine shot out from her hand to wrap around Zhong Yang. Then, she pulled Zhong Yang onto her flying sword, controlling him in her hands. Guan Ruliu's series of movements were as smooth as flowing water. They were extremely elegant and neat. 5 or 6 of the 7 or 8 people surrounding her couldn't help but click their tongues. Thank you for the reminder. Guan Ruliu finally had the time to thank the girl who had just reminded her. You're welcome. The speaker was a beautiful girl dressed in embroidered robes. She was standing beside the youth who had been bitten. Miss, it's fine if we don't kill him, but I'm not sure if we'll be poisoned by his bite, and if so, do you have an antidote? I'm still young, and I don't want to die so early, the youth replied unhurriedly as the girl tended to his wounds. I'd advise everyone not to be rash. A clear, cold voice rang out from behind the crowd. Li Mo, Yun Ruoyan, and Lin Qingchen had arrived at some point. Li Mo's gaze swept over the 2 youths who had been bitten. The person who bit you isn't a demon, but someone who has been poisoned by the corpse poison. Those who are bitten will naturally be poisoned as well, and once they're poisoned, they'll turn into bloodthirsty puppets. Both the beast-clad youth and the beast-clad youth paled. If I die, I'll bury you with me. The young man in the embroidered robe asked, I wonder if this senior has an antidote. If you can remove the corpse poison in my body, I won't pursue the matter of being bitten. That was exactly what Li Mo had been waiting for. You have to keep your word. A gentleman keeps his word, the youth replied. With a flip of his hand, Li Mo tossed a dark green bottle to the youth. Evidently a cautious person, the youth didn't consume the pill immediately. Instead, he poured out one of the pills to make sure it was safe before popping it into his mouth. You'll need to rest immediately after ingesting this pill. You'd better find a place to rest, Li Mo reminded. The youth looked down at the vast ocean, cupped his fists at Li Mo, and turned to leave. The beautiful girl followed closely behind. What about my antidote? The beast-clad youth asked in a low, muffled voice. His wounds were already numb, and it was difficult for him to even open his mouth. I won't pursue the matter. Catch. Li Mo tossed the other bottle of antidote to the burly man, who turned to leave. Seeing that the victim had left, the others prepared to leave as well. Just then, Yun Ruoyan, who had been standing behind Li Mo, suddenly remembered something. She stuck out her head and called out, Everyone, wait. The crowd stopped and turned to look at Yunruoyan. Only then did they realize that there was a petite girl hiding behind the tall, black-robed man. There's one thing that everyone should pay attention to, Yunruoyan began. There's a girl called Yi Qianying. She's about the same age as me, and she's quite pretty. She's possessed by an extremely venomous spirit that can release corpse poison, and my friend was injured by her. If you meet her, you'd better be careful. Got it. Thank you for the reminder, the crowd replied before dispersing. Master Mo, give me a bottle of corpse poison antidote. Guan Ruliu hurriedly rushed to Li Mo's side. Too late. Li Mo's tone was helpless. The antidote won't work on someone who's been poisoned for more than 5 minutes. Li Mo looked at Zhong Yang. The corpse poison had long since entered his body, and the antidote wouldn't have any effect. Under her control, then Zhong Yang was becoming more and more violent, and he was beginning to show his ferocity. Let's head back to land and think of a solution. The entrance to the whirlpool gate was above a vast ocean, and they desperately needed to find land to land. Yunruoyan's group didn't know why everyone was flying in the same direction, so she stopped one of the girls and asked her why. Because there's no path in any other direction, the girl replied. No path. The group looked in all directions. All they could see was the boundless ocean, and the sky was much higher than that of the Qinyuan continent. Why couldn't they fly out? The girl could tell that the group was confused, but she couldn't be bothered to explain. Just follow the rest. She then ignored the group and flew west. The few of them looked at each other, then followed the people around them and flew west. Li Mo, look at that fatty up ahead. Not long after they started flying, Yunruoyan spotted a fatty flying on a pair of chopsticks. Just by looking at his large back and his slender pair of chopsticks, she could tell that he was the vulgar fellow from before. Li Mo raised an eyebrow and whistled. In the blink of an eye, Mo appeared out of nowhere and landed on Li Mo's shoulder. Li Mo then sped up a little to catch up to the fatty. Hey, fatty! Yunruoyan called out to the fatty. When the fatty heard someone call out to him, he turned to look at Yunruoyan. Yunruoyan saw a chubby face, a pair of eyes the size of mung beans, an exaggeratedly wide mouth, and a large, swollen nose. Even though Yunruoyan's heart was heavy, she couldn't help but laugh out loud. What do you want? The chubby man's gaze landed on Mo, who was perched on Li Mo's shoulder, and he immediately covered his nose with his large hands, his beady eyes filled with wariness. Nothing. Yunruoyan stopped laughing. I just wanted to ask you about something. What is it? The fatty asked in a low, muffled voice. Why is everyone flying in this direction? Where does it lead? Yunruoyan didn't beat around the bush. The chubby man glanced at Murphy, who was perched on Li Mo's shoulder, before replying, because all the other directions have been restricted, and there's no way to fly out. When I tried to fly east and south, I was blocked, and when I tried to fly north, I was blocked as well, so I can only fly west. Oh, so that's how it is. It seemed that as soon as they exited the whirlpool gate, they were like birds in a cage, fish in a basket, or turtles in a jar, held tightly by an invisible hand. If that person wanted them to go west, they wouldn't be able to go north, south, or east. Look, there's land up ahead. Someone shouted from the front. Indeed, they could see a yellow patch of land on the horizon. Thank goodness, we can finally see land. Otherwise, I'd have to fly for another 2 hours before I ran out of spiritual energy and fell into the ocean, someone exclaimed. On that patch of land, there were already 7 groups of people waiting. They were the Thunder family, Lai family, Wu family, Feng family, Jing family, Hua family, and Qin family of the Dark Abyss continent. One of the groups was led by a youth dressed in a black robe. He looked to be only 13 or 14 years old, but his figure was already slender and muscular. His short, red hair was all spiked up, and he gave off an air of cleverness. This youth was none other than the second young master of the Thunder family, Pai Yang. Second young master, we've already reached an agreement with the Lai, Hua, and Wu families to leave these two to us. A middle-aged man in embroidered robes and a mustache bowed to the blazing sun. In his hands were two portraits of Liemo and Yun Ruoyan. What about the other three families? Lai Yang asked. This. The steward stammered, the remaining Chen family, Feng family, and Jing family said that they will follow the old rules and let them choose which side they want to compete with. Humph. Lai Yang snorted. I have 3 of their men in my hands. Do you think they won't come to my side? Lai Yang turned to look behind him. Behind him were a dozen or so burly men dressed in warriors' robes. They stood in 2 rows, and between them were 5 people. All 5 of them had injuries on their bodies, and their hands and feet were shackled. They looked like captives. Of these 5, 2 were Zhuo Feng and Lin Qingxue. Chapter 345. Brother Zhuo, are you all right? Lin Qingxue looked tearfully at Zhuo Feng. One of Zhuo Feng's arms had been slashed, and blood had soaked half his shirt. I'm fine. I didn't hurt any bones, Zhuo Feng replied coolly. Because he had lost so much blood, his face was a little pale. As soon as he and Lin Qingxue had been swept out of the whirlpool, they had been surrounded by a group of people, including a few other cultivators who had also been swept out of the whirlpool. The people surrounding them were all of high cultivation, and they were no match for them. Zhuo Feng's arm had been slashed while he was protecting Lin Qingxue, and the person who had injured him was standing right next to him. Zhuo Feng pretended to glance casually at the person beside him. It was a large, long-faced man with a ferocious expression. Zhuo Feng committed his appearance to memory. Brat, what are you looking at? The long-faced man turned to stare at Zhuo Feng with a pair of dead fish eyes. Be careful, or I'll break your arm. Lin Qingxue, who was by Zhuo Feng's side, immediately stood in front of Zhuo Feng and glared at the man. Oh! The man grinned as he met Lin Qingxue's gaze and extended a hand toward her. You're such a cute girl, I can't bear to hurt you. Seeing that Lin Qingxue was about to explode, Zhuo Feng pulled her behind him and smiled at the man. Brother, you're quite a cultivator. If you wanted to break my arm, I'd have lost it a long time ago. I heard that you're trying to kidnap us to work in the mines. If I lose my arm, I won't be able to do hard labor. If you know that, you'd better behave. The man shouted impatiently as he glanced at Lin Qingxue, not bothering to hide the lascivious that he wasn't as stupid as he seemed when she saw a voluptuous woman by the fatty's side. Lin Qingxue to the side. Sensing Yun Ruoyan's gaze, get some dirt on your face later, and nodded at her. At the front of the procession, Thunderbolt looked at the approaching procession with excitement in his eyes. The crowd quickly split into 2 groups. One group headed straight for the mainland, while the other continued west, followed the procession of hundreds of people toward the mainland. The group that was flying toward the mainland was the first to land, and the moment they touched down, who were those people they were quickly surrounded by people. Someone asked. These people immediately sensed danger and immediately took out their spirit swords, wanting to take off. Their auras are so powerful. However, a white light suddenly lit up in midair. From their words, it was clear that they didn't know much about this continent, then expanded in the shape of a trumpet, and then enveloped everyone on land. Could also sense the powerful spirit swords of those who took out their spirit swords. Given their understanding of the continent, they couldn't help but be on guard. My spiritual sword, Liemo, the person who had been sucked into the mirror cried out in pain. Yun Ruoyan asked Liemo, thank goodness I was careful, the situation, or I'd be a sitting duck. Avoid them and find a place for Zhong Yang to rest, Liemo said. Then gestured to Lin Qingchen. The people in the sky couldn't help but rejoice that they hadn't acted rashly, and they continued flying west to the back of the group. However, after there flying less than 30 meters who had the same idea as Liemo, who was flying at the very front suddenly seemed to have hit something. With a miserable shriek, he fell off the flying spirit tool. The pair of chopsticks chased after the fatty and caught him, and the crowd stopped. Old fatty, what's the matter? the voluptuous woman asked. The fatty's face was swollen from the impact, and his nose was bleeding profusely. He raised his head and replied, Shueji, there's a seal in front of us. Damn it, we're trapped here. Everyone up there, come down obediently, lest the mirror takes away your flying spiritual swords and you fall to your deaths. A youth's voice came from the ground. He was using spiritual energy, so his voice was loud and clear. Yun Ruoyan frowned at the familiarity of the voice. Isn't that the voice of that thunderbolt? He's actually here as well. The crowd looked at each other in bewilderment. Damn it, I almost fell flat on my face. I'm going to settle the score with them. He then took the lead and flew toward the land. The snow girl followed behind him and flew toward the land. Seeing that there was no other way, the others also flew toward the land. Guan Ruliu and Lin Qingchen followed behind Liemo, flying behind the rest of the group. Everyone landed on the ground, and the light shot out from the sky-flipping mirror immediately expanded, enveloping everyone within it. Who are you? What are you trying to do? The moment Fatty landed on the ground, he shouted at the team not far away. At this time, a middle-aged man wearing embroidered clothes and a mustache walked out from the middle of the group. He raised his voice and said to the crowd, You gophers, listen up. The man with the mustache cleared his throat and continued, I'm the person in charge of making arrangements for you gophers from low-level continents. According to the rules of the past, you'll have to enter one of the 7 great families as slaves. You'll only be free if the master grants you a favor. What? That's bullsh*t. The fatty shouted angrily. You're the hamster. You want me to be a slave? Go to hell. Well said. How dare a bearded hamster try to pee on our granddaddy's head? Why don't you take a good look at your reflection first? That's right, you must be tired of living. The rest of them began to shout along with the fatty. Although they weren't the best of the best on their respective continents, those who were 8th rank or close to it were considered above average in the cultivation world, and they were all rather arrogant. The mustache man didn't seem angry at all. Clearly, he wasn't surprised at all. He waved behind him, and 7 burly men in samurai robes walked out from each of the 7 groups. Let's get that fatty out first and teach him a lesson, the mustache man said as he took out a handkerchief and covered his mouth. The 7 men stared straight ahead as they walked past the bearded man. They walked towards the crowd that was shrouded in white light and stood in a row in front of the crowd. You, come out. One of the burly men pointed at the fatty. Fine, I'll come out. I'm not afraid of you, the fatty said as he rubbed his thick, muscular shoulders. Old fatty, be careful. It's hard to tell how strong these people are, Shueji warned. Naturally, the fat man could tell that he couldn't see through any of the 7 people's cultivation. This situation could only mean 2 things. First, any one of these 7 people was higher than him. Second, these 7 people were hiding their strength so that he wouldn't be able to see through them. The fatty himself was a 9th rank blade master, and he didn't believe that any random person in the group would be stronger than a 9th rank blade master. If that were the case, then he deserved to be in trouble. You, come and spar with me. The fatty walked out of the white light's range and pointed at the burly man in the group. That man walked out expressionlessly, his robes embroidered with the word pie. Liemo, I can't tell what their cultivation is. Which one of them is stronger? Yunruoyan looked through the crowd at the front. The fatty's an early 9th rank blade master, Liemo replied. The warrior's a peak 9th rank blade master, and the fatty's no match for him. Yunruoyan frowned. If even a normal warrior had such a frightening cultivation, then who knew how strong the truly strong cultivators on the continent would be? The fatty took out a cleaver and pointed it at the man. Show me your weapon. The man's expressionless face finally showed a trace of emotion, and his lips curled up in a disdainful smile. Damn it, if you're looking down on me, I'll chop you up right now to go with my wine. The fatty shouted as he raised his cleaver at the man. The blade of the cleaver immediately burst into flames. Clearly, the fatty practiced a fire-attuned external technique, and his aura was frightening. However, the man had no intention of dodging at all. He allowed the fatty to swing the flaming butcher's knife at the top of his head. Everyone only heard the sound of metal clashing. Just as the fatty's saber was about to reach the top of the big man's head, the big man raised his hands at an extremely fast speed and clapped his palms together to block the fatty's saber. The man's hands glowed with a metallic sheen. He was a metal-attuned external cultivator. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. 5 different types of spiritual energy, 5 different cultivation techniques. Of these, metal and earth were the rarest. Yunruoyan had seen earth-attuned techniques before, but this was the first time she had seen a metal-attuned technique. Chapter 346. Since the fatty's cleaver could withstand spiritual fire, it was definitely no ordinary weapon. However, in front of the burly man, it seemed as if it couldn't even withstand a single blow. With a quang sound, the kitchen knife in the fatty's hand was broken into 2 pieces in the big man's hand. The fatty stumbled back a few steps, his eyes filled with shock. This proved that the burly man hadn't been hiding his true strength, but that he truly was a 9th-rank blade master. I admit defeat. The fatty wasn't a stubborn person. He was certain that he couldn't beat the man, so he admitted defeat in a low, muffled voice. However, the burly man didn't seem to hear him. He continued charging at the fatty, then raised his leg and kicked the fatty in the stomach. The fatty's fat body flew into the air, smashing into an invisible wall before falling to the ground with a thud. The dust on the ground flew up into the air. After suffering this blow, Fatty lay on the ground for a long time without moving. Everyone was silent as their gazes landed on Fatty. When the fatty finally raised his head, he spat out a mouthful of blood. "Humph, you gophers are becoming more and more useless." The large man walked in front of the fat man and stepped on the fat man's body as he spoke disdainfully. Then, he dragged Fatty by one of his arms, as if he was dragging a sack, and dragged him to the front of the Pai clan's troops. Immediately, someone came up with shackles, and placed them on Fatty's hands and neck like they were beasts. "Is there anyone else who wants to challenge me?" the bearded man asked, sweeping his gaze across the crowd. "I'd like to experience your skills." The woman with the fatty, Shuejie, walked out from the crowd. "Heh, who do you want to challenge?" the bearded man asked as he looked her up and down. The 7 burly men in the row all looked at Shuejie, their initially stern expressions now replaced with perverted smiles. "Come fight me, I won't be so rude," a dark-skinned, burly man teased. "Yes, I promise I won't hit your face," another black-haired man added. "As long as you admit defeat, I promise I won't hit you. I'm with that fatty. I want to challenge him." Shuejie pointed at the man who had just defeated the fatty. The burly man looked at Shuejie and revealed an evil smile. Women from low-level continents are usually petite. It's rare to see such a hot one. Unfortunately, I never show mercy. Bring it on, then. Shuejie didn't waste any time and provoked the man. "Liamo, what do you think of the snow charmer's cultivation?" Yunruoyan asked Liamo. "I'm on par with that man." "I can put up a fight," Liamo replied. Everyone watched as Shuejie extended her hands and made a grabbing motion in the air. Immediately, 2 short blades formed from blue ice crystals appeared in her hands. The man stood still, but Shuejie moved. Her legs were slender and powerful, and with a single leap, she arrived in front of the man. Both of her blades slashed at the man's skull at the same time. The man's hands once again glowed with a metallic luster. The ice blade slashed against his metal-like hands, producing a crisp sound of impact. Not bad. The man's eagle-like eyes looked at Xue Jie, who also had eagle-like eyes, and said, "Much stronger than that fatty." Then, the man's hands glowed with a metallic luster, emitting a blinding golden light. Not good. Yun Ruoyan thought. That man's going to try again. Sure enough, with two cracking sounds, Xue Jie's two ice blades were simultaneously broken by the man, and the blades were ground to dust in his hands. "You reckless woman, even if you admit defeat, it's useless in my hands." The man kicked at Xue Jie. Thinking that Xue Jie didn't have any weapons in her hands, he didn't strengthen his kick with spiritual energy. When Xue Jie saw this swift and violent kick coming towards her waist and abdomen, a smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. The man saw Xue Jie's smile and thought, "Not good." But it was already too late. Xue Jie's entire body soared into the air and spun in midair. When she turned around, a large ice blade appeared in her hands. Xue Jie held the ice blade in her hand and mercilessly chopped at the man's calf. With a muffled groan, the man's calf was cut open, and blood flowed out in an instant. With Xue Jie's strength, this slash should have cut off the burly man's leg. However, the burly man's reaction was fast enough. When he discovered the danger, he instantly injected his metal element spiritual power into his leg and strengthened it with metal. As a result, Xue Jie's slash only had time to cut a 3-inch deep wound on the man's leg before it was blocked by the metal elemental flesh and could no longer cut further. After the burly man grunted, he quickly used his other strengthened leg to kick Xue Jie's shoulder in the air. Xue Jie was kicked so hard that she slid backward several feet and hit an invisible wall with a loud bang. Although Xue Jie and the man's cultivation was similar, when comparing men and women, under the premise of the same cultivation, the woman was obviously at a disadvantage in terms of strength. After being sneak attacked by Xue Jie, the man was furious. As if he didn't feel the slightest pain, he rushed toward Xue Jie like lightning. Xue Jie wanted to jump to dodge, but she didn't expect that the man's speed was faster than her, and his combat experience was obviously richer than Xue Jie's. The man jumped into the air and reached out to grab Xue Jie's leg in the air. Then, he slammed her to the ground. Xue Jie's body was violently thrown to the ground. A layer of white spiritual power film formed on the surface of Xue Jie's body, protecting her body. But the man seemed to be crazy. He kept slamming Xue Jie left and right like a sack, breaking the spiritual power film on the surface of Xue Jie's body. Xue Jie was suffocated from the first fall, and then she had no strength to fight back. Her head, face, nose, and mouth were all bleeding. But the man was like an uncontrollable bloodthirsty beast, and like an angry child, he kept slamming her. The people in animal clothing in the crowd started to get restless. Xue Jie clearly had a high status among them. "Stop!" A man wearing animal hide roared and rushed towards the two people in the middle. The rest of the people wearing animal hide were also very excited. However, the white pillar of light shot out by the heaven-flipping mirror had somehow turned into a cage, trapping everyone within. The crowd could only look on helplessly as Xue Jie was tortured beyond recognition. Enough. At this moment, a youth's voice sounded. "Thunderbolt Rock, stop." The man called Thunderbolt Rock finally stopped beating Snow Charmer. He loosened his grip, and Snow Charmer's leg fell to the ground. "TSK, TSK, TSK." Thunderbolt Rock walked over and kicked Xue Jie. Xue Jie didn't react at all. Only the slight trembling of her back indicated that she was still alive. Thunderclap turned around to look at Thunderclap, who still seemed to want to continue, and said with dissatisfaction, "My father has been lacking a servant girl to serve tea recently, and he likes hot ones like you." In the end, you beat her up until she's neither human nor ghost. TSK, what a waste. Crag Splitter cracked his neck, and the sound of his bones cracking rang out. This could be considered a response to Thunderclap. On the Dark Abyss continent, apart from the nobles of the 7 great families who were born superior to the rest of the population, the rest of the commoners only spoke with their strength. Although Thunderbolt Rock was a servant of the Thunderbolt family, he was one of the famed warriors of the Thunderbolt family due to his high cultivation and combat strength. Even Thunderbolt Rock had to give him some face. You're injured. Go get treated first, Thunderbolt Rock said to Thunderbolt Rock. Thunderbolt Rock didn't say anything else and dragged Shue back to the group. Someone immediately came up and shackled Shue, tossing her to the side with the fatty. The people trapped by the light pillars couldn't keep their cool anymore. They were obviously going to end up like Shue and the fatty. Thunderbolt, your Thunderbolt family has already captured 2 experts in a row. Shouldn't you let us show off our skills as well? Feng Mian, the young master of the Feng family, said. Humph, Thunderbolt sneered and said, we're following the rules. They've chosen their opponents. Also, look at those gophers in beast clothing. Their eyes are bloodshot and their killing intent is overwhelming. They obviously hate Thunderbolt Rock to the bone. They'll definitely challenge him next. That's not fair. Another leader of the Jin clan said, could it be that everyone challenged your clan's warriors, and all the gophers became your clan's slaves? Didn't you say that we'd follow the rules? Thunderbolt said indifferently, but it's fine if you don't want to follow the rules. This young master has always been an easygoing person. As long as you agree to my request and hand over the people in the 2 paintings I showed you earlier to my Thunderbolt family, it'll be fine. What paintings? I didn't see them clearly, Feng Mian said. That's not a problem. Let me show them to you. Thunderclap gestured to his team behind him, and 2 scrolls were immediately handed over to him. Thunderbolt unfurled the 2 paintings and said, it's this man and woman. Our Thunderbolt clan wants them. For this slave selection, our Thunderbolt clan only wants these 2. The rest are up to you. I wonder what's so special about this man and woman that they could force the Thunderbolt clan to concede. The other clans couldn't help but ponder, so no one answered for a while. Take a look at these paintings as well. While the other families were hesitating, Thunderbolt turned to the crowd. I don't know the man's name, but everyone calls him Master Mo, and the woman's name is Yunruoyan. The 2 of them are hiding among you, and if anyone reports them to the Thunderbolt family, they'll be spared some physical pain. Yunruoyan and Mo were able to see their own portraits through the crowd. Mo hid Yunruoyan's petite figure behind his back, then began to look around warily. Everyone, please don't misunderstand. There's nothing special about these 2, Thunderbolt explained. It's just that not long ago, these 2 intruded on our beast hunting grounds and killed a few of our warriors and a sky-swallowing beast. As a result, I'd like to find the 2 of them and settle this score with them. Qingchen, senior sister Guan, Yunruoyan explained. Yunruoyan whispered to the 2 men beside her, if we're reported, don't be rash. Make sure to protect yourselves. Before Lin Qingchen and Guan Ruliu could respond, a young girl's voice rang out. There they are. The people you're looking for are over there. Chapter 347. The person who had reported Yunruoyan and Mo was none other than Rong Yueshan, who had been hiding in the crowd. Yunruoyan, where do you think you're hiding? Rong Yueshan squeezed through the crowd and pointed at Yunruoyan, who was hiding behind Mo's back. Thunderbolt's eyes quickly lit up. He took a step forward and hurriedly asked, where is it? Where's Yunruoyan? Although the crowd had no grudge against Yunruoyan and Mo, they didn't have much of a relationship either. As a result, the crowd scattered in all directions, distancing themselves from Mo and Yunruoyan. The students of Kongming Academy, on the other hand, had gathered around Liamo. Apart from Rong Yuashan and a few students from the Northern College, the rest of the students had gathered around Liamo. Yun Ruoyan, you're really here. Thunderclap leaned against the wall of light as he looked in Yun Ruoyan's direction. Come out, let me see you. Damn it, why didn't I gouge out his eyes? Yun Ruoyan cursed softly as she tried to walk out from behind Liamo. However, Liamo placed a hand on Yun Ruoyan's shoulder, preventing her from doing so. Hey, Ice Cube Face! When Thunderbolt's son saw Liamo's attempt to stop Yun Ruoyan, he shouted, Do you dare challenge the warriors of the Thunderbolt family? So what if I do, and so what if I don't? Well, Thunderclap laughed coldly. You'll be beaten to a pulp by the warriors of the Thunderclap family, then forced to become a slave of the Thunderclap family. Brat, you sure are forgetful. Liamo laughed coldly. You were just as arrogant when I first met you in the Spiritual Beast Valley, but I wasn't the one who ended up being beaten to a pulp. You. Liamo had touched on Thunderclap's sore spot, and Thunderclap pointed at Liamo in exasperation. I haven't forgotten the losses I've suffered at your hands. I'll pay you back with interest very soon. Oh. Liamo raised an eyebrow. Are you going to pay it back yourself, or are you going to let the dogs behind you bite you back? Liamo tried to provoke Thunderclap so that his attention would shift from Yun Ruoyan to himself. Thunderclap, on the other hand, had suffered at Liamo's hands before. He wanted to challenge Liamo in a heroic manner, but he knew that he didn't have the ability to do so. Liamo called. I'll bring you out with me in a bit, then find an opportunity to break the nearby seal. You'll be able to escape on my sword, Liamo said telepathically. What about you? Yun Ruoyan gripped Liamo's robes tightly. I can sense the sword's location, and I'll come to find you as soon as I can. What about Qingchen and Yun? She was confident in Liamo's ability to escape once she was no longer a burden. But what about Lin Qingchen, Guan Ruliu, and the poison Zhong Yang? We have a grudge with the Thunderbolt family, and will only implicate them if we stay here, Liamo replied. If we escape, we'll be able to think of a way to save them. What about Lin Qingchen, Guan Ruliu, and the poison Zhong Yang? Liamo relaxed a little when Yun Ruoyan agreed. So, have you thought about how you're going to collect your debt from me? Young Master Thunderclap, a gopher has challenged you to a duel. Are you brave enough to accept? Young Master Feng laughed. That's right. If you don't dare, at least give him a reply. No one can force you. Young Master Feng chimed in. Although the young lady of the Qin clan didn't say anything, she couldn't hide the sneer on her face. What a bold gopher. Just as Thunderclap was about to turn red, the bearded manager pointed at Liamo, a gopher from a lowly continent like you wants to challenge the young master of the Thunderclap family. Are you even worthy? It's not up to a dog like you to decide whether I'm worthy or not, Liamo continued on hurriedly. I'm guessing that you're a coward, so why don't you summon a few dogs that bite? As he spoke, Liamo held Yun Ruoyan's hand and walked toward the pillar of light. Sister Ruoyan. Lin Qingchen grabbed Yun Ruoyan's sleeve and followed closely behind. Lin Qingchen had seen with her own eyes how badly the fatty and Shui Jie had been beaten up, and she couldn't help but worry for Yun Ruoyan. After all, Yun Ruoyan's cultivation hadn't even recovered to 8th rank, and she wouldn't even be able to conjure a spiritual barrier to protect herself. Qingchen, find Qingxue and Zhuifeng, and we'll come back to save you, Yun Ruoyan whispered into Lin Qingchen's ear. Lin Qingchen immediately understood what Yun Ruoyan meant. She let go of Yun Ruoyan's sleeve and watched as Li Mo pulled Yun Ruoyan through the pillar of light. As Yun Ruoyan walked out of the pillar, she scanned her surroundings. At times, the pillar of light was as solid as an impenetrable fortress, and at other times, it was as if it didn't exist at all. Someone had to be controlling it, but Yun Ruoyan couldn't find the culprit. Yun Ruoyan, long time no see. Thunderbolt smiled as he looked at Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan looked at him coldly. I wish I'd never seen you again. Thunderbolt had clearly anticipated Yun Ruoyan's reaction, so he didn't get angry. If you're willing to submit to the Thunderbolt family, I'll spare you any physical pain and even protect you. Thank you for your kindness, but I don't need it. Yun Ruoyan replied coldly before turning away from Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt sighed. The Thunderbolt family has always been clear about gratitude and grudges. You've taken care of me before, so I won't make things difficult for you. However, that Mo fellow must be taught a lesson. Come on, I'm waiting. Mo tried to goad Thunderbolt into action. Let's see how well your Thunderbolt family has trained these dogs. How dare you? Ah! Thunderbolt Rock, the man whose calf had been slashed, yelled at Mo's provocation. The other warriors watching over the slaves were also infuriated by Mo's words. Brother Zhua, Sister Ruoyan and the Slaughtering King won't be able to recognize us like this. Lin Qingxue had already smeared mud all over her face. After Zhuo Yifeng consumed a spiritual pill that he had brought with him, the wound on his arm had stopped bleeding, but his face was now covered by a mixture of blood and mud. They're in a lot of trouble right now, and we can't be a burden to them, Zhuo Yifeng whispered to Lin Qingxue. He put his arm around Lin Qingxue's shoulder, and the two of them squatted among the captives, trying their best not to raise their heads. Thunderbolt Rock was currently treating Thunderbolt Rock's wound. As a water-attuned cultivator, he used his spiritual energy to form a layer of ice on Thunderbolt Rock's wound, temporarily sealing it. Thunderbolt Rock stood up and raised his fist at Li Mo, on the other hand, had been vigilant the entire time. When he saw Thunderbolt Rock madly smashing Xue Jie into the ground, he had completely concealed his own cultivation. As a result, even those who were at least a peak sword master wouldn't be able to see through Mo's cultivation in such a short period of time. If they couldn't see through him, then he would have a chance to win by surprise. Mo placed Yun Ruoyan to one side, then extended a finger toward Thunderbolt Rock and beckoned him over. Whether it was on a low-class continent or a high-class continent, this gesture was used to summon dogs. Already seething with anger, Crag Splitter's rage flared up even more. He charged out of the group and pounced on Mo like a wolf. Thunderbolt Rock, you're no match for him. Thunderbolt Rock's words rang out almost at the same time. He had originally planned to have all the warriors charge at Mo, but after being provoked by Mo, he couldn't find an opportunity to carry out his plan. At this moment, Thunderbolt Rock pounced at Mo with an unquenchable fury. His hands glowed with a dazzling golden light, and his fingers formed into claws. One clawed toward Mo's chest, the other toward Mo's neck. Mo waved his sleeves at Thunderbolt Rock, and dozens of icicles flew out and struck Thunderbolt Rock's body. Thunderbolt Rock's entire body glowed with a golden light, and his iron shirt and golden bell seemed to be impenetrable. Although the icicles didn't injure Thunderbolt Rock, they did slow him down a little. Thunderbolt Rock paused for a moment before saying to Mo, and here I was wondering how powerful you were, but it turns out that you're only an early 9th rank blade master. You were just trying to hide your true cultivation. Thunderbolt Rock, don't underestimate your opponent, Thunderbolt Rock reminded him once more. However, Thunderbolt Rock's arrogant personality meant that he wouldn't take anyone's warning seriously. Chapter 348. Mo's cultivation was already higher than Thunderous Rock's, and now that he'd broken through, it was even more so. Thunderclap felt as if he were strangling Mo's neck and chest, as if he were strangling an incomparably sturdy piece of steel, one that was far tougher than his metallized hands. The spectators couldn't see the actual battle between the two of them, and because Mo had suppressed his cultivation to that of a 9th rank blade master, they all thought that Mo wouldn't be able to make it out alive. However, Thunderclap could feel it. It was as if something unexpected had happened. So that's all a dog from the Thunderous family can do. Liam-o laughed disdainfully. When Thunderclap Rock met Liam-o's gaze, the shock in his heart was no less than the fatty he'd fought. Your cultivation is actually higher than a peak blade master. When Thunderclap realized this, despite his arrogant nature, he immediately prepared to flee. Liam-o finally made his move. Just as Thunderous Rock was about to turn and flee, Liam-o's hands turned into a blur. Before anyone could see what was happening, Liam-o's hands had already grabbed Thunderous Rock's neck and lifted him into the air. Ah! Everyone, including the cultivators from the lower continents and the 7 great families of the Dark Abyss continent, let out exclamations of surprise at the same time. Fingbua, can you see through this person's cultivation? Feng Mian, the young master of the Feng family, asked a middle-aged man in his 50s by his side. The middle-aged man was dressed in an embroidered robe, and although he wasn't dressed like a warrior, his tall, straight figure and bright eyes made it clear that he was no ordinary servant. Fingbua narrowed his eyes as he looked at Liam-o. This person is intentionally concealing his strength, so I can't see through his cultivation. But to be able to defeat him so easily, he must be at least a peak 9th rank blade master, at least a peak 9th rank blade master. Thunderous Rock didn't just sit there and wait for his death. With a flip of his hand, he pulled out a black dagger and stabbed it toward Liam-o's eyes. Liam-o! Yunruoyan cried out in fright, but what happened next shocked everyone. The dagger had accurately pierced into Liam-o's left eye, but it felt as if it had stabbed into something harder than steel. The dagger was unharmed, and so was Liam-o's eyes. A level 2 peak blade master. Fingbua finally saw through Liam-o's true cultivation, and he couldn't help but sound surprised. Count Qingfeng, what did you say? Feng Mian's attention was caught by the scene unfolding before him and he didn't hear Count Qingfeng's words. That black-robed fellow is actually a peak 2nd level blade master. Count of Wind repeated. After reaching the 2nd level of perfection, the solid matter condensed from spirit force elements on the surface of the body will become illusory. Generally, it's impossible to see with the naked eye. Everyone thought that this person used his body to block Thunderclap's dagger, but that's not the case. It's quite rare for a cultivator from a low-tier continent to have such a high cultivation. Count of Wind turned to Feng Mian. Young master, if we can make this person our slave, we'll be able to greatly strengthen our Feng family. Count of Wind is right. The highest level of cultivation I've seen in the past was only a peak 9th rank blade master. I didn't expect to see a 2nd level blade master today, Feng Mian commented. But that kid from the Thunderclap family isn't a pushover either. We'll have to plan this carefully. A series of soft cracking sounds could be heard. Liam-o had crushed the metallized skin on Thunderrock's neck. Thunderclap's dazzling golden skin cracked inch by inch under Liam-o's grip, and fresh blood flowed out of the wound. Everyone, including Thunderclap, was dumbfounded by this scene. Is the kid from the Thunderclap family stunned? Why didn't he call for help? Liam-o turned to look at Thunderclap, his inky black eyes glaring coldly at Thunderclap, causing him to shiver involuntarily. Thunderclap, Thunderclap, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and help. Thunderclap called out to the other warriors in the group. Capture this person alive. I want him alive, no. Thunderclap immediately changed his tone. Even if he's dead. As soon as Thunderclap's words fell, 6 warriors rushed out from the Thunderclap's ranks, surrounding Liam-o from all directions. Liam-o glanced at Yunruoyan, who was standing by the side. Although she appeared calm and collected, she was actually quite worried about Yunruoyan. Although she trusted in Liam-o's abilities, she couldn't help but worry in the face of danger. Who would have thought that the icy-faced kid's cultivation would increase again in such a short period of time? Thunderclap turned to Yunruoyan. His name is Liam-o, and he's my husband, Yunruoyan replied seriously. Please remember this name. Liamo is your husband. Thunderclap asked, as if he didn't understand Yun Ruoyan's words at all. Yes, I've already married him since the first time I saw you in the spiritual beast valley. Can't you tell that we're husband and wife? Thunderclap's mouth twitched. He looks so much older than you that he's more like your brother or uncle. Do people from which continent prefer old couples with young wives? Yun Ruoyan didn't pay him any more attention. What a pity, Thunderclap murmured. Yun Ruoyan, I'm afraid you'll be a widow very soon. What do you mean? Yun Ruoyan's gaze toward Thunderclap was murderous. Thunderclap didn't mind Yun Ruoyan's hostility at all. As long as he could attract Yun Ruoyan's attention, he would be very happy, whether it was a good or bad thing. On this continent, anyone who offends the Thunderclap family won't have a good ending. This Liamo fellow has already been labeled as dead, so I advise you to draw a clear line between yourself and him as soon as possible, lest you be implicated. It's still too early to say who'll have a good ending. Yun Ruoyan retorted. What are you all standing around for? Go! Kill that arrogant mole for me. Thunderbolt roared angrily at the warriors in the field. The reason why the warriors didn't dare to step forward was because they were afraid of the rock in Liamo's hand. Thunderclap's throat was the most vulnerable part of his neck, and if he wanted to, he could snap his throat and kill him instantly. If Liamo wanted to send Yun Ruoyan out, he would have to first confuse the crowd so that he could take advantage of the chaos. Thus, his eyebrows twitched, the corners of his mouth curled up, and he exerted force in his hand. There was an extremely clear cracking sound, and the vicious and arrogant Thunderclap's head tilted to the side, and a mouthful of blood spurted out from his mouth. Thunderclap's eyes were wide open, as if he hadn't even realized what had happened before he lost his life. Useless piece of trash. Liamo tossed Thunderclap's corpse to the ground as if it were trash. Boss! Thunderbolt, Thunderbolt, and the other warriors all cried out in alarm, glaring at Liamo with fiery eyes. What an audacious rat! How dare you kill our boss? Today, we'll tear you to shreds. Thunderclap roared. Brothers, attack! Several burly men, all of whom were above 9th rank blade masters, charged at Liamo at the same time, pulling out their own weapons. There were swords that emitted raging flames, spears made of ice crystals, and vines that seemed to have a life of their own. All of their weapons were pointed at Liamo. Liamo didn't move, and his inky black eyes didn't move. However, no one's movements could escape his eyes. With a clang, when all of the weapons converged, Liamo's entire body rose into the air and began to spin in midair. His rapidly spinning body landed on top of the crowd's weapons, sending the weapons of those who hadn't retreated in time flying. Liamo's body didn't stop spinning. Gradually, a whirlwind began to form around Liamo's body, and the whirlwind grew larger and larger, sweeping up the dirt on the ground and causing a cloud of dust to rise. Apart from those within the pillar of light, the rest of the 7 noble families covered their mouths and noses with their sleeves. Yun Ruoyan's vision was also obscured by the flying dust. Suddenly, a hand grabbed her arm. Thinking that it was Thunderclap, Yun Ruoyan pulled out a dagger and was about to stab the man when she heard Liamo's low voice. Yen, it's me. Let's get out of here. A green light appeared beneath Liamo's feet, and he took Yun Ruoyan into the air. Liamo's trying to escape with Yun Ruoyan. Rong Yuashan shouted from within the pillar of light. When the warriors heard this, they didn't care about the sand in their eyes. Sword light rose from their feet and they soared into the sky. Young master, this old man will go take a look. Count of Wind said to Wind Crown. A 5-colored sword light appeared under his feet as he gave chase. Liamo and Yun Ruoyan quickly arrived at the restrictive wall, and their pursuers were just as quick. Liamo stretched out both fists, channeling all of his spiritual energy into them, and then punched at the wall with all his might. As a peak 2nd-rank blade master, coupled with Li Mo's full-strength attack, the force of the blow was immense. Yun Ruoyan saw that the transparent wall actually rippled, indicating that it had been shaken quite a bit. With a loud boom, Li Mo's second punch successfully blasted a large hole in the wall. "Where do you think you're going?" The pursuers were already very close. "Yen, leave first. My sword of azure light will take you to a safe place," Li Mo said. "Once I've dealt with these pursuers, I'll come find you. But without your sword, how are you going to fly?" Yun Ruoyan asked. "I have my own ways. You go first." As he spoke, Li Mo leaped off the sword and kicked a burly man behind him. But before they could even blink, Li Mo had already transformed into a shadow and kicked them off the spiritual sword. "The warriors of the Dark Abyss continent are nothing more than this," Li Mo said indifferently as he looked at the three fallen warriors. Then, he stepped on the spiritual sword he had just subdued, turned around, and was about to leave. "Hero, save me." At this moment, a cry for help came from below. Li Mo looked down. He saw that the pillar of light on the ground had been removed, and a large group of hundreds of cultivators had been released. Dozens of warriors from the other 6 families had charged into the crowd at the same time. These cultivators from the lower continents were mostly 8th-rank blade masters, while the warriors from the 6 families were all 9th-rank blade masters. They held weapons in their hands and were shackled at their waists. Like wolves entering a pen of sheep, they spread their claws and fangs to capture the disorderly cultivators. In an instant, all sorts of techniques were used in the crowd. Red flames, white ice crystals, green and blue vines, and earth-yellow rocks flew everywhere. It was a tragic sight to behold. This was the true hunting ground for humans. Li Mo saw that Lin Qingchen, Guan Ruliu, and Zhong Yang had all been chained up by the Feng warriors. Given Li Mo's current cultivation, it wasn't impossible for him to turn back and save them, but he had expended a great deal of spiritual energy in the battle just now, and he wasn't confident that he could escape unscathed. "Young man, please wait a moment." Just as Li Mo was about to leave, the deep voice of a middle-aged man suddenly sounded from behind him. Li Mo paused and looked in the direction of the voice. He saw that it was a middle-aged man in a brocade robe standing behind him in the air, stepping on a 7-colored sword light. Li Mo's eyes narrowed, his heart filled with shock. He hadn't even noticed when this middle-aged man had appeared behind him. "What can I do for you, senior?" This man's cultivation was definitely higher than Li Mo's, and Li Mo's tone no longer contained any of his previous condescension. "It's rare for a young man of your cultivation to appear on a lower continent," the Count of Feng said amiably. Count of Feng said to Li Mo with a friendly expression, "But on the Dark Abyss continent, even if your cultivation isn't bad, you won't be able to do much on your own. Why don't you join the Feng family?" "Thank you for your kindness, senior." Li Mo's tone remained indifferent. "I'm used to being on my own, and I don't need protection. We'll meet again." Li Mo turned to leave, but a streak of light flashed past him and sealed the hole in the wall that Li Mo had shattered with his fist. Li Mo turned back, his eyes glinting coldly at the Count of Feng. "Young man, you're too impulsive. You need to be taught a lesson." The Count of Feng's amiable expression vanished, and an aura so powerful that even Li Mo was shocked emanated from his body. The Count of Feng spread out his hands and used the icicle technique that Li Mo had used earlier. Dozens of icicles formed. Li Mo pushed his hands forward, forming a wall of ice in front of him. The Count of Feng clasped his hands together, and the dozens of icicles quickly gathered together to form a giant icicle. The sharp icicle was aimed in Li Mo's direction. "Young man, haven't you seen this move before?" the Count of Feng laughed. "If you can withstand this, I'll let you go." The Count of Feng pushed his hands forward, and the giant icicle spun and pierced the ice shield in front of Liamo. Shards of ice scattered in all directions. Liamo tried his best to infuse all his spiritual energy into the ice shield to increase its durability. Not bad, the Count of Fong said, then infused some of his spiritual energy into the icicle. Blood immediately flowed from the corner of Liamo's mouth. He'd already expended a lot of spiritual energy in the previous battles, and now that he was facing someone with a much higher cultivation than him, it was obvious that his spiritual energy was insufficient. Forcefully exerting his strength had damaged his body. If this continued, his spiritual vortex would rupture, and the consequences would be unimaginable. Seeing that Liamo was at the end of his tether, the Count of Fong added a bit more spiritual energy. Liamo spat out a mouthful of blood, and the ice shield in front of him instantly vanished. The giant icicle spun toward Liamo's face. Liamo closed his eyes. Just as the icicle was a few millimeters away from Liamo's face, it suddenly vanished as well. Liamo's consciousness gradually blurred, and he finally fell from the spiritual sword. The Count of Fong waved a hand toward Liamo's falling body, and a gust of wind appeared beneath him, carrying him slowly to the front of the Fong family's entourage. On the ground, the hundreds of cultivators from the lower-ranked continents had all been captured, and they stared at the unconscious Liamo in despair. Some of the students of Kongming Academy, in particular, were even weeping. They'd long known that this would be a dangerous mission, but they hadn't expected to be enslaved as soon as they'd arrived, handcuffed like livestock. Coupled with the fact that Liamo had been captured, their hearts were filled with despair. Count of Fong, you're indeed a man of your word, Thunderclap said as he walked up to the Fong family's entourage. You flatter me, Second City Lord, the Count of Fong smiled amiably. It's a pity that the girl escaped. The Count of Fong could tell that Thunderclap treated Yun Ruoyan differently. If she escaped, so be it. Thunderclap rubbed his nose. If that's the case, then so be it. Wind Crown stepped forward and said, we'll head back first. Chapter 350. This was the first time Yun Ruoyan had seen Liamo's sword in its true form, but she wasn't in the mood to take a closer look. She stowed the sword away in her pocket dimension, then called out to Qiuqiu in her mind. Qiuqiu, wake up, Qiuqiu. What's wrong, mistress? What happened? Qiuqiu woke up from its meditation, sensing the anxiety in Yun Ruoyan's voice. Can you sense Liamo and see if he's injured? Although Yun Ruoyan guessed that Liamo was injured, she couldn't help but ask Qiuqiu to confirm it. After a while, Qiuqiu replied that it couldn't sense Liamo's aura. Yun Ruoyan's last shred of hope was dashed, and she was certain that Liamo had been kidnapped by the Thunderbolt family. Liamo, wait for me to save you. Yun Ruoyan's eyes shone with a murderous intent. Thunderbolt, if you dare harm Liamo in the slightest, I won't let you off. Yun Ruoyan began to survey her surroundings. She wasn't in the middle of a forest, but rather, a small, wild forest. Yun Ruoyan deduced that she was probably in the wilderness. What she needed to do now was to leave the forest, enter Thunderbolt City, and find a way to rescue Liamo. After about 15 minutes, Yun Ruoyan finally found a small path in the forest. By then, the sky was already dark. She took out a spiritual beast core and used its faint glow to illuminate her surroundings. Right now, she was only a 6th-rank blade master, and her night vision was greatly reduced. Using the faint glow of the beast core, Yun Ruoyan walked for more than 2 hours before finally exiting the forest. As soon as she exited the forest, she saw a few campfires not far in front of her. Yun Ruoyan reflexively crouched down and hid herself behind a bush, completely concealing her aura. Yun Ruoyan counted the campfires in front of her. There were 4 in total, which meant that there were at least 20 people camping. Under the faint glow of the fire, she could also see 4 luxurious-looking carriages. Based on Yun Ruoyan's knowledge on the Qinyuan continent, such a group of 20 or so people were usually cultivators who were out hunting beasts, or bodyguards who were doing business. These people were usually burly, rough men who posed a certain degree of danger. Although she was hungry and tired, she decided not to take the risk. Just as Yun Ruoyan was about to leave in another direction, a figure darted out from the bushes not far in front of her. "Who is it?" A low voice rang out from the black silhouette. At the same time, a snow-white sword light flashed. The black silhouette had pulled out his weapon. With the help of the snow-white sword light, Yun Ruoyan was able to clearly see the face of the black figure. It was the face of a rather valiant woman, and she seemed to be slightly older than herself. "Sister, spare me." Yun Ruoyan immediately squatted down and begged for mercy. She was tall for a woman on the Qinyuan continent, but she was absolutely petite on the Dark Abyss continent. For example, Yun Ruoyan had thought that the woman in front of her was a man. Yun Ruoyan hugged her knees as she squatted on the ground, looking very much like a lost rabbit. The tip of the woman's sword reached Yun Ruoyan's head, but Yun Ruoyan had no intention of resisting. The woman retracted her sword, then led Yun Ruoyan toward the campfire without asking any questions. Yun Ruoyan could see that the people surrounding the fire weren't burly men, but were all women. Moreover, each of them was quite attractive, and they were all of different shapes and sizes. "Hoodlum, why did you come back with a little white rabbit after going to the toilet?" A woman dressed in green laughed. Yun Ruoyan was dressed in the white uniform of Kongming Academy, and the description of a woman dressed in green was quite apparent. More than 20 women, and more than 40 gazes simultaneously shot toward Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan's head was lowered, and her body was curled up, making her look even more like a little white rabbit. "That's right, I didn't expect to find such a beauty on the way to Thunderclap City," another woman laughed. Then, a burst of feminine laughter rang out. "Auntie Hong, this is the woman I found by the forest." Hoodlum didn't seem to hear the laughter as she spoke to a woman dressed in red sitting by the campfire. "Raise your head." A slightly raspy but pleasant female voice rang out. Yun Ruoyan slowly raised her head in response, and a beautiful face appeared before Yun Ruoyan's eyes. "Who are you? What are you doing in this wilderness in the middle of the night?" The woman stared into Yun Ruoyan's eyes. I. Yun Ruoyan's large eyes flashed, as if tears would fall at any moment. "Speak properly." Hoodlum seemed a little impatient. The woman in red waved a hand at Hoodlum, then looked at Yun Ruoyan with a gentler gaze. "Young lady, don't be afraid. We're not bad people. Speak slowly." "Sister." Yun Ruoyan paused for a moment before whispering, "My brother and I were slaves. My master wanted to sell me to some unclean place, and my brother fled with me in the middle of the night. My master's men chased after us, and my brother hid me in the forest, then went to lure them away. Then, I saw my brother being taken away." As Yun Ruoyan spoke, large tears fell uncontrollably from her eyes. When she thought of Li Mo's serious injuries and capture, and how her two sisters wouldn't be able to escape their clutches, her heart ached. Her tears weren't fake at all. "Ah. So he's a pitiful person." "That's right. Just like us, we're nothing more than duckweed in this world." Yun Ruoyan's words resonated with the women present, and they all began to feel sad. As soon as Yun Ruoyan saw their attire, as well as the extravagant carriage not far away, she could roughly guess what they were doing. Auntie Hong's beautiful eyes were fixed on Yun Ruoyan the entire time, but Yun Ruoyan didn't meet her gaze directly. Instead, she tried to avoid her gaze. However, the content of Auntie Hong's gaze didn't escape Yun Ruoyan's notice. At first, she looked at Yun Ruoyan suspiciously. Then, her gaze turned to trust, and now, she looked at Yun Ruoyan appreciatively. Yun Ruoyan knew that she still had a good appearance, and these women's jobs had strict requirements for their appearances. An idea formed in Yun Ruoyan's mind. She pleaded, "Sister, please take me in. I can do anything, whether it's manual labor or manual labor." Auntie Hong didn't immediately agree. She lowered her head in thought for a moment, then asked Yun Ruoyan, "Which city are you from, and which family servant are you from?" Yun Ruoyan instantly knew why Auntie Hong was asking this. If the city they were heading to was the city that Yun Ruoyan had escaped from, it would bring trouble to the group. Yun Ruoyan blurted out, "I'm from Wind City, a servant of the Feng family. We're going to Thunder City." The Feng and Thunder families have always had a grudge, and the two cities rarely interact with each other. "It's not a problem. Auntie Hong, please take her in," the green-clothed woman pleaded. The other women also began to plead for her. "Do you really want to stay with me?" Auntie Hong asked Yun Ruoyan. "Yes, please take me in, Auntie Hong," Yun Ruoyan replied. "Do you know what we do?" Auntie Hong asked again. "I've seen you in Wind City. You're courtesans who sell your skills, not your bodies," Yun Ruoyan replied. "All right, in that case, you can stay with me for now." Auntie Hong finally nodded in agreement. "But I don't keep idlers here. Before you can go on stage to sell your skills, you should follow hoodlum and do some chores." Just like that, Yun Ruoyan successfully joined the group of 20-odd courtesans. "Come, little white bunny, sit here with me," the green-clothed woman beckoned to Yun Ruoyan, and Yun Ruoyan obediently sat down. "You're quite the beauty," the green-robed woman praised, propping her chin on her palm as she looked at Yun Ruoyan. "Sister, you're pretty too," Yun Ruoyan praised the woman sincerely, causing the woman to giggle again. "Sister, I heard from brother that the city lord of Thunder City is very powerful. Is that true?" Yun Ruoyan asked. "Sister, you said that Thunder City and Wind City aren't on good terms. If Thunder City were to attack Wind City, which city would be more powerful?" "The city lord of Thunder City, Thunderflame, is very powerful," the green-clothed woman replied. "His eldest son, the young lord of Thunder City, is also quite capable. If the two cities were to go to war, Thunder City would have a higher chance of winning." "Why are you asking about this?" "I'm thinking that if Thunder City defeats Wind City, my brother might be saved." Yun Ruoyan had long since known that the green-clothed woman would ask this question, so she told her the answer she had prepared beforehand. "Don't even think about it," the green-clothed woman replied. "Then why? Aren't the two families at odds?" Yun Ruoyan pressed. "Because of the spirit crystal mine," Little Qing replied. "Don't tell me you don't even know that. I'm a lowly servant, and I rarely leave the estate." "All right, if there's anything you don't know, I'll tell you." Little Qing told Yun Ruoyan that the Thunder family controlled most of the spirit crystals on the continent. Spirit crystals were a necessity for cultivation, and could even be used as currency. In short, they were extremely valuable. The other families all had to obtain spirit crystals from the Thunder family, so they couldn't openly offend them no matter how displeased they were. As a result, the Thunder family had relied on mining spirit crystals to become the hegemon of the continent. So that's how it is. Yun Ruoyan thought. She really wanted to ask the woman for a spirit crystal to see what it looked like, but she was afraid of exposing herself, so she could only give up. "All right, it's getting late. Everyone, let's sleep early. We still have a long journey tomorrow," Auntie Hong said. Everyone slept in their own blankets, and the green-clothed woman and Yun Ruoyan squeezed into one. Chapter 351. In her dreams, Liamo and the Lin sisters were locked up in a dark, damp dungeon. Liamo was heavily injured and unconscious, and no matter how much she called out to him, he wouldn't wake up. "Liamo, Liamo!" Yun Ruoyan called out in her dreams. Hey, little bunny, wake up, wake up. The girl in green nudged Yun Ruoyan awake, and she immediately sat up. She looked around cautiously, only to see that the sky was only beginning to brighten, and that everyone was starting to get up. We're about to set off. Hurry up, and we'll reach Thunderbolt City by today, the girl in green told Yun Ruoyan as she packed up. After an entire day of non-stop travel, the four-carriage entourage of 20 finally arrived at the outskirts of Thunderbolt City in the evening. Yun Ruoyan parted the curtains of the carriage and looked outside. About 100 feet away, she could see the towering gates of Thunderbolt City, as well as the city walls that stretched as far as the eye could see. Both the city gates and the city walls were dyed a dark red, as if they had been soaked in blood. Against the backdrop of dusk, they looked both imposing and eerie. There was a checkpoint at the city gates that allowed entry and exit, but there were more exits and fewer entrants. Hoodlum rode forward and exchanged a few words with the guards, then rode back to Auntie Hong's carriage. It costs 100 spirit crystals to enter the city. What? 100 spirit crystals? Wasn't it only 50 last time? The girl in green by Yun Ruoyan's side exclaimed. This Thunderbolt family has a mind of their own, but they're still so harsh. They're really ruthless. Yun Ruoyan saw a red sleeve stretch out of the carriage in front of her, revealing a heavy sack in her slender hand. Hoodlum took the sack, rode back to the city gates, and handed the sack to the guards. Then, the carriage entered Thunderbolt City without a hitch, and night had once again enveloped the land. Yun Ruoyan kept looking out the window, at the buildings on both sides of the street, and at the few pedestrians on the streets. This must be your first time here, right? The girl in green asked. Yes, Sister Qingqing, Yun Ruoyan replied, not bothering to hide her curiosity. There is a curfew in Thunderbolt City. When the sky turns completely dark, every house will close their doors and lock themselves up. There are no pedestrians on the streets, so there's nothing to see here. Little Qing said, it's crowded during the day. When you come out with Hoodlum to buy things, you can take a stroll. At this time, the carriage turned a corner and a wooden building appeared in front of them. There was a plaque hanging above the wooden building with the words, Courier Station, written on it. The carriages entered in a single file. Get ready to get off, little bunny, little Qing said. Sister Qingqing, how long will we be staying here? Yun Ruoyan asked. It'll take at least 3 or 4 days. It's hard to say if we can get more business, little Qing said. Oh, I see. In her mind, she began to think about how she would infiltrate the Thunderbolt Manor, find Liemo, the Lin sisters, and rescue them in the next few days. 4 streets away from this relay station, there was a tall and heavily guarded mansion. This was the City Lord Mansion of Thunderclap City. There was a dungeon in the City Lord's mansion that was used to detain slaves. Let's go in. Don't dilly-dally. A group of more than 10 cultivators from the lower-tier continents were herded into the dungeon like livestock. Zhuoyifeng carried Liemo on his back, and Lin Qingchen and Lin Qingxue held each other's hands. The other cultivators were all burly men dressed in beastly garments. Xue Jie was carried on one man's back, and Fatty was carried by 2 men. There were already a few slaves in the dungeon, and it became even more crowded after the crowd entered. All of you, stay here obediently. We'll issue you slave tokens tomorrow, the 2 guards said to the crowd before leaving. The slaves who were already present were unusually cold, but they didn't seem to have any intention of provoking them. In fact, they didn't even bother to look at them. Just like that, the 2 groups of people each occupied one side of the cell, leaving a narrow gap in the middle, but it was still peaceful. After an entire day of fighting, Zhuoyifeng, the Lin sisters, and the others were all exhausted, and they only communicated with their eyes. Zhuoyifeng put Liemo down, and Lin Qingchen walked up to him to take his pulse, then fed him a spiritual pill. Lin Qingxue gave Lin Qingchen a questioning look, but Lin Qingchen only shook her head. Mo's spiritual vortex had been shaken, and his spiritual energy was almost depleted. He was in a deep coma, but it was hard to say when he'd wake up. Ouch! At this moment, a cry of pain broke the silence in the dungeon. Can't you guys be gentler? The person who spoke was the fatty. The two men carrying him had intentionally thrown him to the ground, causing his eyes to narrow into slits. You're already awake, yet you're still pretending. A burly man in beastly garb grumbled. There was a bite mark on his neck from the cultivator who had been bitten by Zhong Yang earlier. I just woke up. The fatty rubbed his buttocks, then turned to the unconscious Xue Jie with concern. How is she? She's been fed a spiritual pill. Her wounds will slowly heal, but I'm afraid her face will be ruined, the burly man sighed. At the start of the human hunt, he and the other burly men had taken the initiative to charge towards the Thunder family's group, with the goal of protecting Xue Jie. When the beastly men heard this, they were all enraged, but there was nothing they could do. Let me take a look at her, Lin Qingchen said to the burly man. I'm a apothecary. The burly men immediately made way for Lin Qingchen. Lin Qingchen walked over and examined Xue Jie's injuries. The wounds on her face are very serious, but I happen to have some spiritual medicine that can help her recover. Lin Qingchen said as she placed her hand on Xue Jie's pulse. Then, Lin Qingchen's eyes shone with amazement. She discovered that Xue Jie's damaged spiritual vortex was rapidly recovering, and her spiritual energy was also recovering. Did you guys give her some kind of miraculous medicine? How did she recover so quickly? Lin Qingchen asked. The burly men were grateful to Lin Qingchen for saying that she could help Xue Jie recover her looks, but they seemed to have some misgivings. They were a little hesitant to answer her question. Why can't I tell you? Look at the situation we're in. The fatty took out a snow-white stone and handed it to Lin Qingchen. Sister, look at this. Lin Qingchen took the stone and immediately felt threads of spirit energy seeping into her body bit by bit, entering her spirit ocean through her meridians. This is... Lin Qingchen looked at the fatty in astonishment. This is a spirit crystal. It can help with cultivation and spirit energy recovery, the fatty said. A senior of our family brought it back from the Dark Abyss continent, but there were too few of them. We only have 2. One is with me, and the other is with Xue Jie. I can't believe such a miraculous thing exists. Lin Qingchen couldn't help but say, many people from our academy have entered the Dark Abyss continent, but I've never heard of the existence of a stone like this. Lin Qingchen handed the stone back to the fatty after saying this. I'll give this to you as a token of my gratitude. The fatty didn't take it. Coincidentally, you have a seriously injured person on your side. It might be of use to him. Thank you very much. Lin Qingchen didn't refuse. She took out the ointment she'd brought with her and applied it to Xue Jie's face, then returned to Li Mo's side with the spirit crystal. Master Mo, hurry up and wake up. Lin Qingchen placed the spirit crystal into Li Mo's robes. As soon as the spirit stone came into contact with Li Mo's body, it began to send a steady stream of spiritual energy into Li Mo's body. Li Mo's damaged spiritual vortex was like dry soil suddenly being poured into a spring, and it immediately began to absorb as much spiritual energy as it could. By the next day, Li Mo's spirit ocean had more or less recovered, and by the evening of the second day, he'd recovered 80 to 90% of his spirit energy. Li Mo finally awoke from his coma. He was the only one left in the cell, everyone else had been taken out. Li Mo sensed the presence of the spirit crystal and reached into his robes to take it out. The originally pure white stone, which still glowed faintly with spirit energy, had turned a grayish-white. Li Mo had absorbed most of the spirit energy within it. So this is a spirit crystal. Li Mo held the stone in front of his eyes and examined it closely. Empress Shuetong and the first elder had told him about its miraculous properties, but not every spirit crystal contained a large amount of spiritual energy. The one in Li Mo's hand was clearly a high-grade spirit crystal. Li Mo cautiously put away the stone, then lay down and pretended to be unconscious. The footsteps stopped at the cell's entrance. Why isn't he awake yet? Is he dead? The burly man in charge of the slaves muttered to himself as he looked at the unconscious Li Mo. The sound of a lock being unlocked could be heard as the burly man approached Li Mo. At this time, Li Mo had two choices in front of him. First, he could defeat the burly man. With Li Mo's current strength, he would be able to leave without anyone noticing. Then, he could easily find Yun Ruoyan based on his connection with the Azure Light Sword. Second, continue to feign unconsciousness and wait for an opportunity to strike. He had already entered the Thunderbolt Manor, and Qin Feng, the Lin sisters, and Zhui Feng were all there. If he left, it would be difficult for him to come back and rescue them. The guard kicked Li Mo lightly, then felt for the artery in his neck. After confirming that he was still alive, he turned and walked out of the cell. In that short period of time, Li Mo quickly made a decision: stay. Although he was worried about Yun Ruoyan, he decided to save everyone this time so that he wouldn't have to take her on a second adventure. Only after the burly man left did Li Mo slowly open his eyes. Within the city lord's manor, all of the slaves had been gathered in a sparring arena. A youth dressed in a brocade robe sat atop the sparring arena, the second young master, Pai Yang. Second young master, everyone's here, the bearded steward said eagerly. The bearded steward turned to Thunderbolt and said attentively, actually, there's no need for second young master to personally arrange for slaves. Just leave it to this servant. Father and brother are inspecting the spirit crystal mine, and they've left the family's affairs to me. Naturally, I have to do it myself, Pai Yang replied. Steward Hu, you may begin. Although that was what Pai Yang said, he was muttering to himself, I wonder if Yun Ruoyan will suddenly appear to rescue that ice-faced man and his sister. Pai Yang's gaze swept across the nearly 100 slaves, but he didn't see Li Mo anywhere. Butler Hu, Thunderbolt suddenly called out, where did that black-clothed ice-faced man go? Chapter 352. Replying to second young master. The bearded manager said, that person was seriously injured and has yet to wake up in prison. How badly injured? He can't be dead, can he? Thunderclap sat up straight and looked at the bearded man. He wanted to use Li Mo to lure Yun Ruoyan out, but if Li Mo were to die, there would be no value to him. Moreover, Thunderclap knew that Yun Ruoyan was deeply in love with Li Mo. If Li Mo were to die, he would bear a deep grudge against Yun Ruoyan. This wasn't the outcome Thunderclap wanted. He's not dead, Steward Hu hurriedly replied. Don't worry, second young master, he won't die. Only then did Thunderclap lean back into his chair. If he's still unconscious, get him a physician. His life must be spared. Yes, your servant obeys. The bearded manager said, then, second young master, can I start now? Begin. Thunderclap waved his hand. Next, it was time to record everyone's names and register them as slaves. Then, everyone was given an identity token. This token is very important, the bearded man began. From now on, this token will symbolize your status. From now on, you're all slaves of the Thunderclap family. The bearded man's tone was as if he were talking about something very honorable. Zhui Feng held a black wooden token in his hand. On it was a realistic carving of a hamster crawling on all fours on the ground. This was why they were called hamsters. On the Heiyuan continent, they were akin to hamsters. Damn it, the burly man with teeth marks on his neck raised his hand and was about to smash the token on the ground. The fatty grabbed his hand. Oh well, hey, don't be rash. Oh well, hey, listen to the fatty, Shui Jie added. Only then did the burly man called Oh hey suppress his anger and stop himself from smashing the hamster token. Zhuifeng's grip on the token grew tighter and tighter, as if he were about to shatter it. Just then, Su Bei's voice rang out by his ear. Before you're strong enough, you must learn to be tactful and reserved. Zhuifeng slowly loosened his grip on the token. If I'm not strong enough, I must learn to be tactful and reserved, he muttered to himself. For the past 2 days, Yun Ruoyan had been staying with the troupe at the inn. Auntie Hong and Hoodlum had been leaving early and returning late these past few days. Xiao Qing had said that they were out looking for business. Yun Ruoyan asked what kind of business it was. Although Yun Ruoyan knew about the existence of geishas, she didn't know much about what they did. As a result, after Yun Ruoyan asked this question, she would be dragged out of bed by Qing every morning before dawn to train. There were more than 20 women who played the flute, played the piano, sang, and danced. Each of them had their own unique skills. Xiao Qing was a dancer, so Yun Ruoyan naturally learned from her. Yun Ruoyan knew martial arts, so dancing wasn't a problem for her. After a few tries, Xiao Qing was impressed by Yun Ruoyan's talent, and said that the next performance would be the finale. That morning, Yun Ruoyan had just finished training with Qing and was about to return to her room. As she passed by Hoodlum's house, she suddenly saw a faint light coming from the crack of the door. Yun Rongyan lightened her footsteps and walked to the window. She poked a hole with her finger and peered inside. She saw Hoodlum sitting on his bed, cultivating his spiritual energy in the morning. Cultivators usually cultivated their spiritual energy in the morning, but Hoodlum's cultivation method was something Yun Ruoyan had never seen before. She was sitting cross-legged on her bed, and a white stone that glowed with spiritual energy was flying around her. Yun Ruoyan could feel large amounts of spiritual energy emanating from the stone, directly absorbed by Hoodlum's body, and then converging in her spiritual vortex. A spirit crystal. This is a spirit crystal. Yun Ruoyan exclaimed inwardly. She heard footsteps in front of her, and Yun Ruoyan quickly walked away from Hoodlum's room. Little bunny, what are you doing? It's time for breakfast. Xiaoqing's figure appeared around the corner and called out to Yun Ruoyan. Hey! I'm coming. Yun Ruoyan hurriedly ran toward Xiaoqing. After breakfast, Yun Ruoyan had nothing else to do, so she began cultivating in her room. Ever since she'd been injured, she hadn't slacked off in her cultivation in the slightest. However, the results had been minimal, and her cultivation had always been limited to that of a 6th-rank blade master. If Li Mo were to cultivate with her, perhaps the results would be better, Yun Ruoyan thought. Mistress, mistress, the sword's reacting. Just as Yun Ruoyan thought of Li Mo, Qiuqiu's voice rang out in her mind. Yun Ruoyan immediately closed her eyes and sent her mental energy into the pocket dimension. Sure enough, the sword that had been glowing faintly in the pocket dimension was now glowing brightly, as if it had regained its former luster. That's great. Li Mo's healed. Yun Ruoyan exclaimed excitedly. In the afternoon, Hoodlum came to find Yun Ruoyan, telling her that he'd found some business and would be performing in a few days. As such, he needed to buy some necessities, and had Yun Ruoyan accompany him on the streets. Yun Ruoyan had been wanting to visit the city lord's manor for the past few days, but hadn't found an opportunity. During the day, the streets were bustling with activity, and by the time they reached the downtown area, it was even a little crowded. Yun Ruoyan was easily pushed away from Hoodlum by the crowd. She squeezed out of the crowd and found someone to ask for directions to the city lord's mansion. Then, without stopping, she rushed in the direction of the city lord's mansion. In just an hour, Yun Ruoyan had traversed 4 streets and arrived at the manor's main entrance. There were 4 high-ranking warriors standing by the entrance, and it would be almost impossible to enter through the main entrance. As Yun Ruoyan walked along the outer walls of the manor, she had Chocho communicate with Li Mo through her mental energy. It didn't take long for Chocho to connect with Li Mo. However, because of Yun Ruoyan's cultivation, Chocho's mental energy was also restricted, so Chocho couldn't communicate with Li Mo for long. Li Mo only had time to send a message to Chocho before the two of them lost contact. "How did it go, Chocho?" Yun Ruoyan asked anxiously. "Mistress, I managed to contact Li Mo," Chocho replied. "But we lost contact very quickly. However, Li Mo said that he'd have Mo deliver a letter to us in a while." After about 15 minutes, Mo flew out of the manor and landed on Yun Ruoyan's shoulder. It opened its mouth, and a scroll of paper landed in Yun Ruoyan's palm. Yun Ruoyan unfurled the scroll and saw the familiar handwriting. Her heart, which had been hanging by a thread for so many days, finally relaxed. In the letter, Li Mo informed Yun Ruoyan of the current situation in the manor. He also told her that Zhuo Feng was with him, and that Yun Ruoyan didn't need to worry and that she should wait for him. Once he found an opportunity to rescue Qin Feng, he would reunite with her. Li Mo also said that Mo should follow Yun Ruoyan. Li Mo's opponents were all so powerful that Mo couldn't deal with them, and it wouldn't be of much use by Li Mo's side. "Just follow me," Yun Ruoyan instructed Mo. "I just happen to need you." When Yun Ruoyan returned to the relay station, Xiao Qing was anxiously looking for someone to look for her. When she saw Yun Ruoyan walk into the relay station, she flew into a rage. "Where did you go? How could you lose track of someone?" Xiao Qing scolded Yun Ruoyan. "I'm sorry, Sister Qingqing. There were too many people, and I got separated from Sister Ah Fei." Yun Ruoyan lowered her head, as if she had done something wrong and was willing to accept her punishment. When little Qing saw her like this, the anger that was born from her anxiety also dissipated. "Are you hungry? How did you find me?" Xiao Qing asked. "I asked everyone on the way back," Yun Ruoyan replied pitifully. "All right, it's good that you're back. Everyone, disperse." Auntie Hong stood by the railing on the second floor. "The day after tomorrow, we'll be going to the Zhang Manor to liven things up. Everyone, make sure to arrange your performances well." "Yes, Auntie Hong," the crowd replied. After lunch and a short break, Yun Ruoyan and Xiao Qing began to rehearse. Xiao Qing asked Yun Ruoyan to dance with her. The rehearsal continued after dinner, and it wasn't until everyone was exhausted that they finally returned to their rooms to rest. Yun Ruoyan, however, didn't rest. She waited for Murphy. Not long after, it flew in through the gap in the window, holding a stone that glowed with a white spiritual light. "Good job, Murphy," Yun Ruoyan praised. As it turned out, Yun Ruoyan had Murphy sneak into Ah Fei's room and use its demonic voice to knock him out. Then, it had borrowed her spirit stone. The reason why she said it was borrowed, not stolen, was because Yun Ruoyan would still have to return it after using it. Yun Ruoyan checked that all the doors and windows were shut tight, and that there was no one nearby, before sitting cross-legged on her bed and beginning to cultivate. She had only seen an image of Ah Fei cultivating, but she didn't know exactly how he did it, much less how he started cultivating. If she didn't know, she would have to start by experimenting. Yun Ruoyan placed the spirit stone in front of her and injected her spiritual energy into it, but it didn't seem to have any effect. Yun Ruoyan held the spirit stone in her palms, then placed it in the middle of her palms. Spiritual energy flowed through her palms and through the spirit stone, forming a cycle within her body. After 2 cycles, Yun Ruoyan could feel a large amount of spiritual energy seeping out of the spirit stone. As soon as she let go, the spirit stone began to revolve around her, just as it had done in the morning. As it flew, it released spiritual energy around Yun Ruoyan's body. This spiritual energy was so pure that Yun Ruoyan only needed to absorb it a little, and it would flow through her meridians and into her spiritual vortex. All of a sudden, Yun Ruoyan's bottleneck, which had been hampering her cultivation for so long, was broken. 4 hours later, Yun Ruoyan opened her eyes. Her spiritual vortex had been replenished. Yun Ruoyan stretched out her hand and called out in her heart, "Qi Tong, come." A scarlet light appeared in her hand. "I've finally recovered my 8th rank cultivation." Yun Ruoyan let out a long breath. She could finally escape without burdening Liamo. Chapter 353. Yun Ruoyan had returned the spirit stones, then she lay down and had her first good night's sleep since entering the abyss. The next day, she practiced her dance as usual. The day passed quickly, and it was finally time to perform at the Zhang Manor. Early in the morning, Yun Ruoyan followed the procession to the back door of the Zhang Manor. Regardless of which continent, geishas were of low status, and they didn't even have the right to enter through the front door. The procession entered through the back door and hurriedly put on their makeup and costumes in preparation for the upcoming performance. Yun Ruoyan followed little Qing as she methodically prepared for her performance. "Is my lipstick smudged?" Little Qing asked Yun Ruoyan. "No." Yun Ruoyan looked at it. "Rouge?" "No." "Eyebrows?" "Nope." Because there weren't enough mirrors in the crowd, little Qing used Yun Ruoyan as a mirror. "Little bunny, aren't you scared or nervous?" Little Qing asked Yun Ruoyan. "Scared of what?" Yun Ruoyan replied blankly. "Aren't you nervous about going on stage?" Little Qing looked incredulous. "This is your first time on stage, but you're not scared or nervous at all. You're really born for this line of work." Yun Ruoyan had no response to little Qing's words. Compared to a rain of blood and swords, dancing in front of a crowd really wasn't that big of a deal. Little Qing was only around 20 years old, a decade younger than Yun Ruoyan's mental age. However, she had taken care of Yun Ruoyan like a younger sister, and Yun Ruoyan was quite touched. "Little Qing," Yun Ruoyan suddenly called out. Little Qing paused for a moment before responding. "What is it, bunny?" "My name is Yun Ruoyan," Yun Ruoyan replied. "Yun Ruoyan." Little Qing repeated the name and smiled. "What a good name. Bunny, let's stop fooling around. We're about to go on stage." Yun Ruoyan and little Qing were next to go on stage. As soon as the two of them stepped onto the stage, Yun Ruoyan saw a familiar face in the crowd. The mustached steward was currently drinking and chatting with the head of the Zhang family, and didn't have the time to look up at the stage. Even so, Yun Ruoyan was still very careful, lowering her head to avoid facing the audience. Qing thought that Yun Ruoyan was suddenly having stage fright. She's still young, after all. Even if she's afraid, she'll only understand it when it's right in front of her. The dance finally ended, but the mustached man didn't notice Yun Ruoyan. "How dare you say you're not afraid? Look, your cold sweat has ruined your makeup." Xiao Qing smiled as she wiped her face. Only then did Yun Ruoyan realize that she had put on heavy makeup, so the man with the mustache might not be able to recognize her. "Ah, Sister Qingqing, my stomach hurts." Yun Ruoyan clutched her stomach. "I need to go to the bathroom." "Then why aren't you going?" Amidst little Qing's laughter, Yun Ruoyan clutched her stomach and ran backstage. As soon as she ran out of the backstage area, she straightened her back. Just then, a maid passed by, and Yun Ruoyan walked up to her. "Sister, where's the toilet?" Yun Ruoyan pretended not to understand the direction that the maid had given her. She pulled on the maid's hand and pointed the way for her. When they reached a corner, Yun Ruoyan lightly tapped the back of the maid's neck. The maid's body softened, and she fell into Yun Ruoyan's embrace. Yun Ruoyan changed into the maid's clothes and blended into the crowd of guests below the stage, standing behind the mustache man. Housekeeper Hu, the mine I'm in charge of is in urgent need of manpower. You'll have to send this batch of slaves to me, the patriarch of the Zhang family said. Just now, when Yun Ruoyan was dancing on stage, she overheard the two of them talking about slaves. That's easy. Let me tell you, among the slaves this time, there are a few experts that can be sent to the depths of the mine to mine. However, experts aren't easy to manage, so it'll be up to you to make them work obediently, the mustache man said. Of course, don't worry, housekeeper Hu. My whip isn't to be trifled with. Tomorrow, a batch of slaves will be sent over to you. They've just arrived from a low-tier continent, and they're all strong and healthy, the mustache man said. That's good. Thank you, brother. The patriarch of the Fong family smiled. Housekeeper Hu, what do you think of the singer? Do you want me to find two of them to serve you like this? In that case, I'll do as you say. After discussing the slaves, the two of them began to tease each other. Once again, Yun Ruoyan retreated from the crowd. Could the newest batch of slaves from a low-tier continent be Li Mo and the others? It looks like I'll have to go to the city lord's manor to take a look tomorrow. When Yun Ruoyan returned from the Zhang manor, she had Mo send a letter to Li Mo, telling him about what he had heard, hoping to find out how things were progressing on his end. However, Mo wasn't able to find Li Mo, who was currently investigating the city lord's manor. Over the past few days, Li Mo had turned the manor upside down, but he still hadn't found any trace of Qin Feng. Li Mo had used all sorts of methods to obtain the location of all the dungeons, water dungeons, and dark dungeons within the manor, and then he began to investigate them one by one. 2 or 3 days passed without any results, and there were still no results today. However, his investigation had narrowed down to the last 2 dungeons. If Qin Feng hadn't been sent out of the manor, then he must be in one of these 2 dungeons. Mo didn't find Li Mo, nor did he send the letter. Not receiving a reply from Li Mo, Yun Ruoyan grew more and more anxious. She decided to go to the city lord's manor the next day. With Thunderbolt's permission, Li Mo and Lin Qingchen moved out of their dungeons and began living in the woodshed. Zhuo Yifeng and Lin Qingxue remained in their dungeons. In order to prevent Thunderbolt from recognizing Zhuo Yifeng, Lin Qingchen had disguised half his face with a fake birthmark, just like Yun Ruoyan's. Indeed, Thunderbolt hadn't recognized him after seeing him several times. Otherwise, he would have dismembered the man who had strangled his neck with a bow. Before dawn the next day, before the prisoners had even woken up from their slumber, a few warriors came to wake them up and chase them out of their dungeons. Where are you chasing us to? Old Sable asked. With a crack of the whip, Lao Hei's body was hit. Wherever I tell you to go. What's with all this nonsense? The warrior with the whip chided. Before the prisoners could react, they were chased out of the manor's back door and into the caged carriages that had been prepared in advance. Zhuo Yifeng and Lin Qingxue entered the same carriage. With another crack of the whip, 5 carriages carrying more than 50 prisoners began to move toward the west. Yun Ruoyan quietly watched all of this from a corner of the back door. Afraid that she would miss them, she had been waiting there in the middle of the night, and she had finally made it in time. In the second carriage from the back, Yun Ruoyan could clearly see that Zhuo Yifeng and Lin Qingxue were inside. Zhuo Yifeng's disguise was one of Yun Ruoyan's most common tricks, and it naturally wouldn't fool her. Yun Ruoyan didn't see Li Mo or Lin Qingchen, and she guessed that they had been left behind in the city lord's manor. With Li Mo around, Yun Ruoyan didn't have to worry about Lin Qingchen, but Zhuo Yifeng and Lin Qingxue might be taken to some kind of mine. After a moment's consideration, Yun Ruoyan decided to save Zhuo Yifeng and Lin Qingxue first. As a result, she followed the caravan out of Thunderbolt City, hoping to find an opportunity to rescue the 2 of them on the way. Liamo and Lin Qingchen didn't know what had happened that morning. Liamo spent the entire night investigating, and only returned to his woodshed at daybreak. Just as he lay down, the door was kicked open, and two drunken men walked in. These two men were none other than Thunderbolt and Thunderbolt. Because their brother, Thunderbolt Rock, had been killed by Liamo, they had asked Thunderbolt's son to execute Liamo as revenge. However, Thunderbolt's son had rejected them outright. Not only that, Thunderbolt's son had even gotten Liamo out of his cell and treated his wounds. This made the two brothers extremely dissatisfied. Over the past few days, no matter where or when, as long as they were unhappy, they would come looking for trouble with Liamo. Although they didn't dare to kill him, they did beat him up. Liamo was pretending that he hadn't fully recovered, so he couldn't retaliate, nor could he use spiritual energy to protect himself. All he could do was endure the blows. Over the past few days, his body was riddled with injuries. "You're sleeping so soundly. Wake up." Thunderbolt tipped the flask of wine in his hand at Liamo, spilling the contents all over him. "My brother's killer is absolutely irreconcilable." Thunderbolt was also swaying unsteadily from the alcohol. "But my enemy is right in front of me, and I can't kill him." "If you can't kill him, then beat him until he's better off dead than alive." The two men dragged Liamo from the wooden bed to the ground and began kicking him violently. Liamo protected his vitals and didn't move or make a sound. Both of them felt as if they weren't beating a person, but rather a piece of wood. There was no joy in beating someone up at all. The two of them were tired of fighting and felt that there was no meaning in fighting anymore, so they both stopped. "You're not afraid of being beaten, and you're not afraid of death." "I don't believe there's nothing you're not afraid of." "There's one thing he's afraid of," Thunderbolt said. "What?" "A woman," Thunderbolt continued. Lily continued, "Do you still remember that day when this bastard let a woman go? That woman was definitely his lover or relative, and she was definitely someone very important to him." Right, Thunderbolt hurriedly added. "When he was fighting with brother, that woman was watching coldly from the sidelines." "Let me think." Thunderbolt slapped his head. "Ah, I remember now. The second young master called her Yun Ruoyan, and I even saw a portrait of her." "I remember too," Thunderbolt added. "Her name was Yun Ruoyan, and she was quite pretty. How would she taste compared to the girls in the brothels?" As soon as Thunderbolt said this, Liamo's eyes, which were hidden beneath his arms, shot out a murderous glare. "Who cares what she tastes like? Once we catch her, kill her, and let this bastard have a taste of losing a loved one." "That won't do." "Wouldn't that be a waste? I'll have to make sure she's in pain." Thunderbolt only got half of his sentence out before the other half was forever stuck in his throat. At some point, Liamo had stood up, and one of his hands had pierced through Thunderbolt's back and out of his chest. Thunderbolt's heart was in Liamo's hand. Thunderbolt was stunned by the scene in front of him. By the time he reacted and opened his mouth, an icicle had pierced through his mouth and out of the back of his head. Chapter 354. Yun Ruoyan followed the convoy westward for many days, but she still couldn't find an opportunity to rescue them. There were a total of 4 warriors in the convoy, each of them at least 9th rank blade master. Yun Ruoyan was only an 8th rank blade master, and fighting them would be like throwing an egg against a rock. She didn't have a better idea, so she could only follow them and search for an opportunity. During the afternoon break, one of the coachmen left the convoy to relieve himself and was drugged by Yun Ruoyan's bewitching powder. From him, Yun Ruoyan learned the location of their destination, the largest spirit crystal mine in the Leaf family's territory. They were only 2 days away from their destination, and Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but feel a little anxious. Once they reached their destination, there would be even less of an opportunity to rescue them. That night, Yunruoyan once again stealthily approached the convoy. For safety reasons, she had been following them from a distance, only occasionally checking on Lin Qingxue and Zhuori Feng in the dead of the night. The carriage was currently parked on a small path in the middle of a valley, and the coachman and 4 warriors were eating meat and drinking wine by a bonfire. Yunruoyan watched them from atop a small hill to the south. If her cultivation were higher than these warriors, she would be able to refine a bewitching powder that would be effective against them. As Yunruoyan watched them eat and drink, she began to wonder if she could find an opportunity to poison them. Over the past few nights, Yunruoyan had refined quite a few poisons, all of which she had stored in her pocket dimension. In Qiuqiu's words, it wouldn't be a problem for these 9th-rank blade masters to be poisoned to death. The problem was how to poison them. Yunruoyan had considered having do it, but not only was the bird a glutton, but it was also a bully. In the face of danger, it would always retreat. In the end, she had to rely on herself. Yunruoyan sighed inwardly as she looked down once more. Suddenly, a gaze shot up from below, meeting Yunruoyan's gaze. Yunruoyan's heart skipped a beat, and she immediately sensed danger. She exited her hiding place without hesitation, and then flew in the opposite direction on her sword. The owner of that gaze, a long-faced, wretched-looking man, immediately chased after Yunruoyan on his sword. A 9th-rank blade master could easily overwhelm an 8th-rank blade master in terms of speed. Fortunately, the Scarlet Eye was a top-notch sword that doubled her original flying speed. Even so, she still wasn't able to shake off the warrior, and was only able to maintain a certain distance between her and him. The warrior chased Yunruoyan all the way into the middle of the night. Yunruoyan's spiritual energy began to run out, and the warrior finally caught up to her. "Lass, don't run." The warrior's wretched voice reached her ears through spiritual energy. "You won't be able to escape from me, ha ha ha." The laughter grew louder and louder, and Yunruoyan's speed grew slower and slower. A red sword light flashed by Yunruoyan's side. Yunruoyan suddenly stopped, because the path in front of her was blocked by the long-faced warrior. Realizing that she couldn't escape, Yunruoyan landed on the ground, saving some spiritual energy. "How's that? I told you, you won't be able to escape. Don't be afraid, I'm very protective of you." The long-faced warrior landed with Yunruoyan, standing less than 30 feet away from her. In the darkness of the night, Yunruoyan's wolf-like eyes stared straight at the long-faced warrior. She had quite a deep impression of him. Yunruoyan had seen him grope Lin Qingxue more than once, and Zhuori Feng had even been beaten up by him in order to protect Lin Qingxue. "Actually, I've been paying attention to you for a long time. You've been following us for a few days, haven't you?" The long-faced warrior looked at Yunruoyan calmly. "But you're quite alert. I tried to get close to you several times, but you always managed to escape in time. I thought you'd be able to keep your cool, but this time, I've finally managed to catch you." As he spoke, the long-faced man looked up and down Yunruoyan's body. "You female hamsters are much more petite and adorable than the women of the Dark Abyss continent. I like soft ones like you, and they're easier to digest." "Oh." Yunruoyan sneered. "Be careful not to break your front teeth." "You're a little chilly," the long-faced man laughed. "I'm coming right now." As soon as the long-faced man finished speaking, he waved his hand at Yunruoyan, and a dozen or so fireballs flew toward her. These fireballs spun rapidly in the air, and the heat they brought with them rushed toward Yunruoyan's face. Like Yunruoyan, the long-faced man cultivated a fire elemental external technique. Although he looked wretched on the outside, his attacks were extremely vicious, and he had no intention of holding back at all. Yunruoyan was forced to retreat rapidly. As she retreated, she waved the Scarlet Eye in her hand, deflecting the fireballs with great difficulty. "You're quite quick on the uptake, girl." The man also quickly stepped forward. As he waved his hand and performed a technique, he said, "Take this move of mine." Another dozen or so medium-sized fireballs flew toward Yunruoyan. Yunruoyan used a fireball technique of her own, and a dozen or so smaller fireballs, each half the size of the fireballs in front of her, were instantly swallowed. Yunruoyan continued to retreat, buying time as she drew circles in front of her with her scarlet eye. The circle formed a wall of fire in front of Yunruoyan. Qi Tong possessed his own spiritual fire, and the power of this spiritual fire was incomparable to that of a normal spiritual technique. Chapter 355. What's going on? The long-faced man exclaimed in surprise. He found that the scarlet light had a strange power that made the spear in his hand unable to move forward at all. However, he couldn't pull the spear out of the red light. He couldn't even abandon the spear and leave. He was strangely fixed in place. At the same time, a strange change occurred in Yunruoyan's mind. In her originally blank mind, a book appeared out of thin air. Yunruoyan remembered that this book was the one that Liemo had shown her. At the same time, Yunruoyan also had a wordless book that looked exactly the same. The book floated in Yunruoyan's mind, and then the pages automatically flipped open. A blank page appeared in front of Yunruoyan. Just as Yunruoyan was puzzled, words gradually appeared on the page. Yunruoyan looked at them one by one and gradually remembered that this was the content of the divine dragon technique that she had read before. The originally difficult content was now clear at a glance. This is the highest technique of my demonic dragon clan. What you're seeing now is the part you saw before, which is the technique for cultivating spiritual energy, the demonic. I continued. Originally, this technique should be cultivated only after you've reached the peak of your cultivation, but at this critical moment, I'll leave you a trace of the divine dragon's power to help you cultivate this technique. As soon as the demonic I finished speaking, Yunruoyan felt a warm power flow through her body, and her numb body finally felt again. Child, you're on your own. The demon eye uttered one last word before disappearing forever. The long-faced warrior was trying his best to pull out the spearhead in his hand. The crimson light suddenly disappeared without warning, and he stumbled back a long way before stabilizing himself. By this time, Yunruoyan had already stood up. Her entire body was wrapped in a faint red light, and the divine dragon's power was rapidly healing her wounds. The wound on her chest was no longer bleeding, and small black scales gradually grew from the flesh around the wound to cover it. On her face, forehead, arms, and legs, small black scales grew on all the places where the skin was broken and bleeding. What kind of monster are you?" the long-faced man cried out in horror. "I'm not a monster." Yunruoyan opened her eyes, which had also turned crimson. "I'm not a monster. I'm a human who specializes in killing monsters. Qi Tong. Come back." Yunruoyan stretched out her right hand, and Qi Tong, which had fallen to the ground some distance away, glowed brightly and flew back into her hand. With a flip of her hand, Yunruoyan kept Qi Tong. "No matter what kind of monster you are, I'm going to kill you today." The long-faced warrior once again thrust his flaming spear toward Yunruoyan. Yunruoyan waved her hand in front of her, and a scarlet flaming whip appeared in her hand. Like a spirit snake, the whip wrapped itself around the long-faced man's spear, and the spear's handle quickly turned a scarlet red. The scorching temperature forced the long-faced man to let go of his hand, and then he summoned the spirit sword without hesitation. A red light flashed under his feet, and his whole body rose into the air. His speed of escape was not slow at all. Yunruoyan waved her hand in the direction that the long-faced man had fled, and the whip sent the scarlet spear flying. Then, like a sword, she chased after the long-faced man. Arg! A tragic cry rang out in the dark plains. The spear had pierced through the long-faced man's heart. The long-faced warrior fell from mid-air and landed on the ground with a thud. He was dead. The red light gradually disappeared from Yun Ruoyan's body, and her eyes returned to their original black color. She immediately sat down cross-legged and began cultivating according to the contents of the art of the divine dragon in her mind. After Li Mo had killed Pai Li and Pai Hua, he tossed their corpses into the pond in the manor, then returned to the woodshed and continued sleeping as if nothing had happened. At daybreak, Lin Qingchen came to treat Li Mo's wounds. During this period of time, Li Mo had been injured every day, and no one had stopped her from treating his wounds. The two of them had been able to communicate with each other. Master Mo, as Lin Qingchen treated Li Mo's wounds, she reported, Qingxue and Zhuarifeng were taken away this morning. Li Mo frowned. Do you know where they've been taken? According to the servants in the manor, they've been taken to a spirit crystal mine, but it's hard to say which one. I understand, Li Mo replied. You can make some preparations. We'll be leaving the city lord's manor in the next few days. As night fell, Li Mo drifted out of the woodshed in the dead of the night, evading all the guards as he made his way to the prison cell he was looking for. The first cell was empty, and Li Mo headed to the second. There was someone locked inside, but it wasn't Qin Feng. Could it be that Qin Feng isn't in the city lord's manor at all? Li Mo thought to himself as he lay on the bed in the woodshed. Could he have been sent to the spirit crystal mine as well? Li Mo felt that Qin Feng had most likely been sent to do hard labor, so he decided to leave with Lin Qingchen immediately. Because Li Mo had informed Lin Qingchen beforehand, Lin Qingchen wasn't surprised when Li Mo suddenly appeared, and the two of them immediately prepared to leave the city lord's manor. By this time, the sky was already beginning to brighten, and Li Mo and Lin Qingchen were heading toward the city lord's manor. Although Lin Qingchen could carry Li Mo on her sword, there were many experts in the city lord's manor, and the two of them didn't dare take the risk. Her face also turned ashen, and it looked like she was about to be strangled to death. Stop! Li Mo shouted. If you want her to live, save her, or she'll die. She's just a slave, Pai Yan replied coolly. Li Mo's expression was solemn. He suddenly waved a hand, and a row of blue icicles shot toward Pai Yan. You're really faking it. Pai Yan's voice rang out. Li Mo had long since known that Pai Yan was testing him, but he couldn't leave Lin Qingchen in the lurch. After all, she was his closest relative. Thunderflame easily dispelled Li Mo's icicles with a wave of his sleeves, allowing Li Mo to appear in front of Thunderflame in a flash, grabbing an ice sword out of thin air and thrusting it at Thunderflame. Thunder's Flame grabbed the ice sword with his bare hands, broke it in half, and stabbed the remaining half of the sword into Li Mo's shoulder. Then, he struck Li Mo's chest, causing him to spit out another mouthful of blood. His legs gave way, and he collapsed to the ground. All of this had happened in the blink of an eye. Even Lin Qingchen, who was the closest to Li Mo, hadn't seen what had happened. All they knew was that Li Mo's shoulder had been injured and he'd fallen to the ground. Pai Yan let go of Lin Qingchen's neck and returned to his seat. Lin Qingchen was also slumped to the ground, panting heavily. Not only is this rat cunning, but he's also very patient and persistent, Pai Yan continued. It won't be easy to subdue him. Father, if it were an easy task, I wouldn't be interested in doing it. Thunderbolt Batian looked at the heavily injured Li Mo, his eyes gleaming with interest. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.